Yeah, about to have me some duckton. What the what the heck? What the heck? I had my mouth. What the
Do you really believe that garbage?
It's not about a believing, it's a matter of fact.
So you believe.
Well, nobody else could make a decision but me because I was the president, and the final decision comes to the president.
You know, it's easy enough for a Monday morning quarterback to say what the coach should have done after the game's over. But when the decision is up before you, and on my desk I have a motto which says the buck stops here, the decision has to be made.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I could say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
President?
Yep.
Mr. President, I want to raise an issue that I think you've been lurking out there for 2 or 3 weeks and cast it specifically in national security terms. You already are the oldest president in history, and some of your staff say you retired after your most recent encounter with Mr. Mondale. I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
And I'm the one who will not raise taxes. My opponent now says he'll raise them as a last resort or a third resort. But when a politician talks like that, you know that's one resort he'll be checking into. And my opponent won't rule out raising taxes, but I will, and the Congress will push me to raise taxes, and I'll say no. And they'll push, and I'll say no. And they'll push again, and I'll say to them, read my lips. No new taxes.
Oh, shit.
Here we go again.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush.
In any country, prison is where society sends its failures. But in this country, society itself is failing.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
We won the evangelicals. We won with young. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
Grab him by the pussy.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Stay shut your mouth, because you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I did.
Hold it, tough guy. I'm not afraid of physical.
Hold it. Don't sit there and tell me I'm not.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. You fool me, we can't get fooled again.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people. Stand back and stand by. Will you shut up,
Last thing was Olivia Gondak. It says that I wanted to eat her pussy. Olivia Gondak. I've never said that in my life tour. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home. Thank you very much.
You got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Okay. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. We now have a gun on every table. We're ready to start shooting.
By the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
Sarcastically.
That was...
Even though they're trying to impeach the son of a bitch. Can you believe that? You believe that? That's enough. Put down the mic.
President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this
I'd like to
investigation?
punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
If I may ask
Peter,
one
go
other
ahead.
question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one other.
I don't want reality. I'm asking the question: which one is better? That's exactly what it is.
Got it on tape.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse.
How stupid are these politicians to allow this to happen?
If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
No,
guy.
no, stop it.
Is that your solution every poll?
No, no, sit down. Sorry, Eric. Sit down. Look at you.
You're
saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts.
Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your. Oh.
Yeah, about to have me some ductin.
All right, here we go. It's Tuesday, TFP Tuesday. And once again, we are back with Take Fist Politics. And I'm back with the world's most dangerous political panel. I'm Van Cat, and I'm here with Ricardo. What's up, Ricardo?
What's up, Van Cat Extraordinaire? What do you do, Take Fist Politics crew, SDS crew? We're in the house. We're here. We're live.
All right. Yeah, and this week we're going to be looking at guns, gun violence, and the political aspect of guns, in particular in this country, but weapons in general, really. And today, MD sent a message saying that he's having problems getting a connection. So as soon as he can come on, he'll join us on the panel here. There's a lot going on right now. Obviously, we can't get to everything. We never can get to everything going on in the world right now, but we'll try to cover as much as we can. So today's topic, again, we're dealing with the gun violence, the weapons situation in this country and others, to be honest. So let's go back in time to 1999. And let's take a look at Columbine, but then also other mass shootings. And then we'll be back on the other end.
Today's Closer Look, the legacy of Columbine. Ever since that mayhem 15 years ago, we've seen more and more of these mass shootings, many by troubled young men inspired by the Columbine killers. In this brand new ABC News investigation, Pierre Thomas and his team dig into what drives these boys to unlock the mystery of why they snap and what can be done to stop them.
Columbine High School, April 20th, 1999. Its deadly legacy still echoes today.
Active shooter, Sparks Middle School, they have at least 2 down.
October 21st, 2013. A Nevada boy, only 12, shoots and kills a teacher, wounds 2 students, then takes his own life. Police find pictures of the Columbine killers on the boy's cell phone. April 9th, 2014. Franklin Regional High School near Pittsburgh. Chaos as a 16-year-old boy goes on a stabbing rampage, injuring 22. May 1st, police say they stopped a Minnesota boy, 17, from bombing and gunning down his classmates. Here he is testing his homemade explosives. All these cases share one common trait. All the suspects were inspired by or somehow tied to the Columbine tragedy, when Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold hunted down and killed 12 students and a teacher in cold blood. ABC News identified 17 school attacks and 37 serious threats linked to Columbine since the massacre, among them the slaughters of Virginia Tech and Newtown. At least 10 of the cases came in the last year alone, as this disturbing phenomenon seems to be intensifying. In Pasadena, California, at the start of this school year, 2 students accused of planning another school massacre.
They just wanted to kill as many people as possible.
A 3-month ABC News investigation spanning the country uncovered chilling evidence, video diaries, journals, police interrogations where the Columbine killers often emerged. Here's that Minnesota suspect talking to police in May.
My number one idol is Eric Harris. I think I just see myself in him.
This 16-year-old Tampa student was also allegedly planning a murderous nightmare.
I'm the Freedom High School shooter in Tampa, Florida. Well, I will be. Columbine, Virginia Tech, none of them will beat me. I'll kill them all. I can't wait to die, dude.
Perhaps no case demonstrates the Columbine obsession more than the 2006 shooting spree of this sadistic North Carolina killer. He convinced a family member to drive him to Columbine.
Columbine High School, right there. And you see over there? That's the library. That's where everything took place, right there.
He bought the same guns.
This, my friends, is what Eric Harris used in the Columbine massacre.
He even dressed like them.
Operation Columbine is underway.
Tragically, it was more than just play acting. The suspect shot and killed his father, then opened fire at his high school, wounding 2 students.
Remember Columbine!
He was arrested in this T-shirt. Some of the killers and Columbine worshipers are mentally ill. Some want attention. Others feel slighted and have specific grievances that spiral out of control.
And they're looking for things that align with whatever their perceived grievances. They have taken an unusual fascination in Columbine and other large-scale horrific attacks.
The modern era of active shooter events really began with Columbine.
The copycat phenomenon is real.
They're looking to those attacks for inspiration, and sometimes it even turns into sort of a hero worship.
These troubled young men and women dream of unspeakable carnage. Those who've actually attacked, wounded and killed scores of innocents who should never be forgotten. In the cases we studied, 66 killed, 59 wounded. How can this dangerous phenomenon be stopped or at least slowed? We sought answers from Dylan Cossey, now 21, but who at 14 was arrested for allegedly discussing a plan to attack his high school outside of Philadelphia. Cossey told me there was no specific plot and that he does not believe he would have carried out an attack, but he admits to fantasizing about acts of violence against peers who had been taunting him.
What really drew me in to that dark path that I was on was that sense of hopelessness. And you start to associate with people who may discuss those kind of violent acts because they're the only people that at the time you feel that understand you.
He began researching Columbine.
And when I heard that these kids were bullied and that's why they did what they did, that's when the thought goes, I was bullied too.
After being arrested, Cossey received years of court-ordered therapy.
What would Dylan of today tell the Dylan of 7 years ago?
I would probably tell that you're stronger than you think you are. You're not alone. There is more support out there for you than you could even think possible. That you can move forward beyond anything that you're going through and move ahead with your life to a better place than you thought you could.
All right, there we go. That video piece talking about Columbine, talking about the fans of Columbine and the people that were motivated over the years and decades to try to replicate Columbine. All right, so Ricardo, after seeing that piece there, what were your thoughts on that and just gun situation in general?
Yeah, that brought back a lot of memories, man. For in 1999, it was a different era in terms of, you know, how innocent the world was. You know, it's like 1999. In fact, 1998 going to 1999 was so completely different than what we know of now. And then when we hit 2000, it was like, oh, the Olympic Games for Sydney, and then 2001 hit us with the, you know, the 9/11 attacks. So it was just like a complete different era. It's like pre-Y2K. If y'all remember pre-Y2K, it was like, oh, you know, the clocks are going to stop and the planes are going to fall out of the sky. And it was just a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, get back to the topic here. Yeah. It brought back a whole bunch of memories. I remember that event, Columbine, how it changed the scope of how we think, how we never in a million years would even think to, you know, rationalize the thought process of someone going into a school with a rifle, and much less two people at that, two students, you know, regular kids that go to school, to then shoot up 12 innocent kids and the teacher. And the way they did it was so sadistic. It was like, you know, out of a movie, but really more sinister. And the fact that there was nowhere, you know, they had to run, I think it was to the cafeteria and a whole bunch of other places to hide. And it brought about the active shooter scenarios. Like even now in the workplace, there's certain things that come about, and it was attributed to Columbine. So, you know, a lot has happened since then, since 1999 going into now, that I feel like it still resonates with certain people who are, I guess in a sense, mentally unstable or ill. They draw, I guess, in a sense, some kind of familiarization to the event. I don't know why. I'm it's still trying to figure out in my head what could make you go about trying to reenact or do the same sick, impulsive, disgusted act of shooting up a school. I would never get it. And then I thought, you know, there's no way it could get worse. And then it hit us with Sandy Hook, and Sandy Hook was the last straw for me. I was like, once you kill innocent kids who come into this world, their frame of mind is so like pure that it's like they think about dreaming about, you know, more like, you know, the world peace and clean up the planet and, you know, less, you know, garbage and all that stuff. And it's like you go into a school and you shoot up innocent kids that couldn't even run and defend themselves. That to me was the last straw. And I thought maybe that will pivot the country into thinking about gun laws and how to like stopping it from getting in the wrong hands and all of that. Nope, it didn't do a damn thing. It just, if anything, it made people more emboldened. And then we have had worse shooting events after that, you know, where we had in Texas with the other school shooting, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff. But in reality, that piece brought back, I don't know if it was what's the word we're looking for when you get brought back into a moment where you forgot about. It's kind of like
Deja vu.
It's not even deja vu. It just brought back like a weird sense of state of like, oh my god, that really did happen. Like you would look back in the piece and you remember where you were at that exact moment when an event happened. That's what happened when I saw that piece. It was just weird. I remember where I was exactly at that moment when it happened, and how sad it was, and you know, a whole bunch of stuff that came with that memory. But yeah, man, we've come a long way, but we haven't changed that much, and that's the sad reality of having a law that allows us to bear arms, but then when it comes to tragic situations, it always leads back to the one thing which I feel is a crutch, and I'm sure Trevor would agree with me as well, is the mental illness syndrome, where as soon as somebody does something, it's like, oh my god, it was mental illness. Like, come on, man, like there's got to be more to it than that. Where I'm not saying that most of these people are not mentally ill or unstable or whatnot, but if you keep using the same crutch where it's like, oh, I shoot up 20 people, oh my God, he was mentally ill. It's like you're becoming desensitized. And I feel like there's more to us getting to that point. We need to start, I don't know if we should challenge that, or we should look about ways of not using that as a go-to every single time we have a mass shooting of some sort, whether it be Columbine, whether it be in school, whether it be the Buffalo event, whether it be anywhere else. It's becoming a bit much to me when we keep using mental illness as a crutch, if you get what I'm saying. But I digress.
Well, you know, I'm gonna say something right now. I gotta say, I just can't. I just can't. Well, the thing that I've noticed forever is that with these tragedies that happen, we always talk about the after, the actual killing, the actual shooting, the actual gunning down, the actual lives lost. And that's a sad thing because a lot of these people ain't probably have anything to do with the people that are carrying out these heinous acts. But nobody ever goes back to the origin of where it comes from. And in that video piece, that guy that was narrating over the video, he mentioned one little thing and glossed right back over it and went on about the same narrative.
I know,
and that's troubling to me.
It is
the fact that they don't recognize that those Columbine kids were bullied,
yes,
beat up, ridiculed, and all of the above. And when that was happening to them, nobody had anything to say. And this is why gang membership never dies. This is why, you have all these problems in the world, because for some reason, people in society is okay with a certain group or demographic of people having less than, not having the ability to have freedom, peace, and just a stable life. And we're okay. It's all good. It's all fun and games. And then those guys came back blasting. I'm not trying to disrespect the families that have fallen. That is horrible. I thoroughly get that. But I wish people would get how we got here.
Yeah, fact.
And it's never uttered. It's never talked about. It is immediately go to Freddy Krueger. We go right to the horror, and it stays there. No matter how the origins of that horror happen, the society sets up these scenarios and situations that turn people into villains, that turn people into monsters. And we 100% just dial in on that individual that took a bad turn. But they didn't have to be there had they not had that bad situation, courtesy of our society. So this is something I've noticed for years, and it always bothers me. It always bothers me because it's too easy to demonize. Now, those guys are a piece of trash. Don't get me wrong.
Don't get us wrong, facts.
But I understand. Because if I'm going to be with my head in the dirt and I'm going to be beat down, ridiculed for nothing, I did nothing. I didn't mess with nobody. And I just keep getting all this negative attention and all this ridicule to my way when I was, quote unquote, a good citizen. And then nobody was there to speak up for me. Nobody was there to protect me. Well, I'm going to put it in my own hands. And I'm going to blast back with fury unlike nothing. So I totally get that. I totally get that. So they need to answer for that. We get outraged for their actions, but where's the outrage for the inaction?
Facts. But I also bring to light the fact that since then, because if I remember quite well, don't quote me, I think after that event they were saying, but what about the school? What was the school doing up until that point? Wasn't there a situation where it was brought to the teacher's attention or the principal attention or the guidance counselors? I don't even know if we have guidance counselors in school anymore, because they were a thing when I was going to school. They were always present and they were there for a reason. But they were, there's a lot of what ifs that came about from the whole situation and when it transpired. And what they found, or what they did in terms of the investigation, was there was like a numerous amount of times where there was warning signs, the red flags, all of that put out, and no one, again, what you just stated, no one really did anything until the event transpired, and it was like, oh, woe is me, like, oh my God, and they villainize. I feel like we have this complex in this country, particularly when it comes to tragedies or whatnot. We like doing the Hollywood theme thing where it's like we instantly love to villainize. It's kind of like watching the movie Carrie, where you remember when Carrie was like this innocent, innocent girl until she was bullied also, and then when she turned dark and do a whole bunch of damage in the end, when she killed all these people, they were like, they spin on her grave and all that. And I thought it ironic in the end. The one person that felt sympathy for her is the one girl that was the one that, reached out and let her boyfriend took her to the prom. So there's always the signals, the warning signs and whatnot. But I feel like because society is so finicky in terms of how we view things and judge things, and how I want to say is that the word? Romanticize and
romanticize all day,
all that stuff. It's like that's the tragic point of view that we always fail to not realize that's what we're doing. It's kind of like a weird, sick thing that society does. But I agree with your sentiments. I think we need to start focusing on why these events come about, or why they unfold. And the reason why they unfold is because the guy said it again in the piece, I was bullied. And what I realized is that those dudes that did the tragic events were also bullied. And he said the same thing that I always say afterwards. Hey, if I could go back and talk to myself the way I was back then, I would have said, you're much more stronger than you think, because a lot of people go through the same thing. It resonates with a lot of people because we've all been bullied. We've all been there. Whether or not we think we haven't, we've been in a space where we've been bullied, where somebody spoke to us a certain way or did something to us, and we didn't realize until afterwards that, hey, that was a form of bullying. So, it's kind of tragic, but in a way, I feel like we need to start focusing, like you said, on why the events unfold the way they do and fix them before they get out of hand. And that's where we're not doing that. That's where we need to start, like, hey, zeroing in and then say, hey, man, let's fix this issue before it escalates, because we don't want to be doing this whole crying nonsense where we're like, oh my God, I should have said something. Oh my God, I should have done something. The what ifs after doesn't help, because the people are tragically taken away by that point. So let's fix it. You know what I mean?
Damn right, 100%. Everything you said, I gotta agree with. And the carry point there is very poignant. Spot on, spot on. Yeah, it's just disappointing. The way we look at things like that, we've in the past we played the video where Joe Biden is talking about people, criminals, like he doesn't care what happened or what ills happened that got them there, the fact that they're stealing or whatever, they're horrible people. And I'm like, no, that's not how that works, bro. That's not how that works. You created, just like Tupac said, this place is dirty. I'm just talking about it. And I'm hoping that by me talking about it being dirty, somebody will come around and clean it up. You got to address these issues. These issues are right there. We're giving money to foreign places. Meanwhile, we're here struggling in this country for no reason.
Right.
We got to address those issues. I remember watching, I watch a lot of documentaries, and there's one on the Crips and the Bloods that's really good. And in the documentary, they were talking about young kids. They were like from 5 to 13, and they were all suffering from traumatic post-stress syndrome, stuff you would get if you're in the military. And kids in the highly active areas, LA, and all these areas that have high gang activity. Those smaller kids, the stress and torment that they got to go through on a daily. We need to address that. And then someone in the documentary said, if this was Beverly Hills and the kids was just starting to grab guns and start shooting, there would be an immediate response to try to correct this. But they just let it happen. They just let it happen. So, yeah, the fact that this country can be okay with certain people having bad fortunes, having bad experiences, having bad moments in our society. You're just okay with it. Like, we have homeless people all over the place. Where do our serial killers usually like to hit? They hit people on the streets that are homeless and whatnot. Why? Prostitutes, because they don't think nobody's going to miss them when they're gone. Why do we have people in our society that's expendable like that? There should never be that. There should never be that. There's no reason to be that. So while we're giving funds to other countries, maybe we need to work on what's going on here first. And these problems are not that big of a problem that we couldn't address it. Money isn't the answer to everything, but the issues could be solved. But we're not solving any problems. We're just pushing it down the road, and it's just getting worse.
But the issue at that as well, Venkat, which you fail to realize, this country is a capitalistic country. So anytime we try to fix something, it seems like it's socialistic, and socialism always comes with a negative connotation. So,
thanks to the Republican Party.
So whenever you hear there, and again, it falls back on how the politics of this country goes hand in hand with the politics of power and money and all that entangled in one. When we try to fix anything, whether it be welfare, whether it be, the simple thing as gun control or all of that, it's like, oh my God, they're trying to take away our rights, or oh my God, they're trying to do this, and we don't want to be like Venezuela, and we don't want to be. But when you look at the statistics of like other countries, like in the European Union or in other places where, I'm not saying that they have a high population of 300 million like the United States does, but at least you get a sense of they're trying to tackle certain things and they try to alleviate and fix them way before they escalate. Like, if the population is going to be ballooning at a certain magnitude, these countries go in and say, all right, let's put in maybe free infrastructure, or let's put in free education, or let's put in give everybody a card that they could, purchase groceries free. Or I think there's a country in Europe where, a simple fruit on a tree, the homeless people could cut it down whenever they're ready, because, food is a necessity. Or what, you know what I mean? Like certain things they put up. This country is like everything is about dollar sign money. Everything is capitalization, and I don't understand why you can't have capitalization and social welfare being taken care of at the same time. I don't know why there's a disconnect of it's going to lead to something down the road. It doesn't need to be that way. You could have both, and it works in simpatico with each other. I feel like that's the main problem I have with the US, is that it's always been this viewpoint of the blindfold has been put on, like how the horses run in a race where they only put on the blindfold up to a point and they could only see straight ahead of them, but no one looks to the side and goes, all right, well, what if you look that direction? This is what will happen. I don't get that here at all. And it's kind of like it goes because it's such a double-edged sword. I like the point of view of having capitalism, but I also respect the point of view of, hey, you could share the capitalistic point of view. When you have money, if you are up the 1%, up there in the high pyramid, you could share the funds or the money that you have with the people at the very bottom. At least make them feel appreciated. You know what I mean? Not just gravel up everything for yourself. And that's the main problem that we have here. But I digress. Again, it's the point of view of a typical American, where it's always about money, but how do you fix certain things? Oh, well, let them fix it themselves. No, there's a lot that goes into, hey, you could share certain things, and it doesn't have to come across like, oh, it's just socialism and that's it. There's nothing wrong with socialism. You can, again, work hand in hand with capitalism here. If you have 1,000 kids going to school and whatnot, you can give them free education. I'm sure it will come back in three folds when those kids remain here instead of going abroad and spreading them wings and not investing in our country as opposed to going somewhere else, if that makes sense. But I say all of this to say, hey, there can be simpatico when it comes to capitalism and welfare. I'm sure MD is going to disagree with me, but I do believe that there's a point that you can have them split in the middle. But again, because one party is for one, the one party isn't, and it's like you just can't get them in the same page. It won't work. So the same thing is in accordance with gun laws. It's like one party is saying let's do this, but the other party is going to be like, oh, they're going to take away all of this, they're going to roll back all of this. It's like, good Lord. Both can come to a mutual agreement in the middle. It doesn't have to always be just one-sided. And that's where it felt like in Sandy Hook situation, they could have done that, but lo and behold, nobody did anything. And it's like we're still stuck going round and round in circles and yet to rectify the one issue that we could always fix, because we keep going back. And again, there's always influence as well. The NRA is another situation, which we'll get into later on in the show, where their influence is really up there. But if you take away all of that, the NRA and the politics and all of those things, I'm sure we could get something done. But I digress. I don't know when, but eventually we'll come around to something.
All right. Thank you, Ricardo. On the panel now, what we have here is Solar. What's going on, Solar? How you doing? Oh, so I guess he's not.
What's going on? Can you guys?
All right, there you go.
How y'all doing?
All right.
We're good.
So what do you think about what we're talking about here? Weapons in the United States, particularly guns, and the consequences and the fanatical culture, really, with the United States and their guns and the mass shootings that's been going on.
I think that it's kind of part of American culture. They're not going to never give up their guns. I mean, they founded the country on them having the right to bear arms, and they put that into the Constitution because of how they liberated themselves from the British. So to prevent tyranny, this is their justification. They give the citizens the right to, be able to bear arms. So they're sticking to that fundamental American constitutional right. In terms of the violence, well, this is just part of European culture. I mean, they had 30 years of warfare. Even going back into Europe, they have a history of fighting each other, and every place where they go on the world over, it was through aggression. They are for whatever reason they have an issue with coexisting. Their worldview is different from the people in which they engage. They tend to resort to violence quickly than any other group of people on the planet. So when you're seeing like this violence being carried out, amongst the youth, even with you said the Columbine High. I read it a while ago, but it was this I think it was this movie that a lot of white America was watching. It was this guy, I forget, it was something Diaries. I forget what the name it was. It was a guy, he was being bullied. So he came in. It was like he had like a I guess it was like a dream or a vision, of himself coming into the classroom and shooting everybody up, because he was being bullied. So it was like almost like the way the movie went. In his mind, he shot up the students. And this was a very popular movie. And what you see with the Columbine High is them actually carrying it out. So that's just that's a cultural thing. And I believe that they did Columbine High on Adolf Hitler's birthday. I think it was some significance as to why they did it on that date as well. So in terms of you talking about with like the bullying and somebody was just talking about, I think it was Ricardo, he was talking about, dealing with the capitalism and stuff that he felt, the stuff that he said he didn't understand about why do they do certain things. I think a lot of times when we don't understand things, it's because we don't know what their intentions are. Because, if we're looking at this from a humanitarian perspective, it doesn't make sense. Why are there homeless people? From a humanitarian perspective. And why wouldn't the 1% give to the poor? If we're all humans. And, me having a whole lot of money, I should be able to give some money. But what if I'm a greedy person? What if I'm a person that wants to oppress that 99%? What if I designed the system for that specific purpose? Then in that case, it's a perfect system. In that case, they are genius. So it all depends on how you want to look at it. Is it these people that's just ignorant to what's going on? And it's just like, these are errors that these people are making based off of their ignorance? Or are they doing it knowingly? And they just made that good of a system to maintain their 1% status and the 99% being the useless eaters or whatever have you will.
Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying now. To me, when you have people that aren't able to provide for themselves, aren't able to move along within the economy to benefit society and prop us up in a better way, and you just have a bunch of people on the wayside, not functional, inefficient, that does not help your society build and grow. And for all the capitalistic behaviors and identity that we have in this country, everybody's complaining right now about the economy, even though it's running really well for those that have all the money, for those that are in Wall Street, in the banking system. But there's a forecast of a potential economic downturn as we had a crash in 2008, that this could possibly occur in a few years just by some of the trends that are going on. So you have the stock market doing overwhelmingly great. You have a situation where people and prices are at odds. People can't afford some of the basic necessities because you have to literally decide, am I going to get this or am I going to get that? Am I going to pay this? Am I going to pay that? So there's going to be a point where you're going to have a breaking point at some point, because we can't maintain and continue in this way. People are going to start to default, foreclose. People are going to end up homeless. People are going to end up not having a way. And at some point, there's got to be a reset or something. But the idea that we're okay with people not doing right in the world's richest country is mind-boggling to me. You could have people actively in the economy working, doing things to prop up the country, and that would be a way more productive way to use them instead of just having people just out there homeless, committing petty crimes, just on the highways, underneath the underpass. It's not productive. It's just a silly, silly thing. The money is there for it. They just choose not to use it there. They're catering to big business and rich people. And I think when you keep going that route, there's going to be a breaking point, and then we're going to be like, oh, wow. You cannot advance as a society, as a country, without investing in the people. If you have your household and it's you, your wife, and some kids, and you don't put the money to give them not just food, but good food, healthy food to make them nutritious, to make their nutrients and everything right, to make their health right. If you don't give them the education that they need to get so that they can obtain the knowledge needed to help themselves, if you don't invest in your own household, you're going to have your household crumble over a period of time. The same as with this country. If you don't invest in your people, you will not have the right outcome at the end of the day. So, right now it's 2024. This soundbite may play back in 3, 4, 5, 7 years, and you may start seeing what I'm saying. But to me, it's a weird thing to do. You have a capitalistic system that is pretty much all that means is, what can I do to exploit you? How much can I get from you with me giving very little back? That's all capitalism is the exploitation of individuals for greater gain. And when you have that constantly going up throughout the economy and everybody's trying to one up everybody, that is not the basis of real success. You'll have people that'll have benefits from it, but the large majority will be at odds. So when you see those people breaking into CVS's and Walgreens and all these different places, and they're just smashing and grabbing, or they're just stealing, or they're following people that have money home, and then they hold them up right then and there, you're creating an environment that's ultimately not going to be beneficial for you. Just saying, you make your bed, you're going to lay in it.
Yeah. Ricardo, you was about to say something?
No, I was going to say, but valid point, Vanke, but it comes back down to what I was saying, is that when you have the people that are on the very top of the pyramid, totem pole or scheme or whatever you want to call it, they're the whole, because we romanticize all these things. When it comes to like people being that high up, we then see for capitalism, there's also socialism and there's welfare. And no one likes the idea of doing welfare or socialism or charity, because charity is always looked down or frowned upon, or is looked like, it's like, oh my God, it's like you're poor, you know what I mean? Or you're looked at like less than. So this country, I've always said it, I feel is we're so I wouldn't say brainwashed, but we're so like stuck in this frame of mind of what capitalism is, but we never want to focus on what the other aspects of, you know, the chart of, you know, welfare is as well. So when it comes to anything that deems be socialism, it's a negative thing that we always hear. It's like, oh my God, this is this, and this is gonna ruin everything, and this is how we're gonna go, like the way of Russia and Venezuela. And I'm saying to myself, but there's countries in Europe that, you know, or European Union as a whole, as a continent. Well, Europe is not a continent, but they like to make you think it is. But as a whole, the whole significant countries, in terms of the influence and power that they have, they know how to share amongst themselves when it comes to the power and the welfare that they have and whatnot. Look at Norway, look at the Nordic countries, and look at you know, everybody else. They know to significantly share the funds that they have amongst their people and promote the people from the bottom up, to then keep them within the sphere or the periphery of their countries, instead of letting them spread out and just go about and leave the countries and not invest well. That's the issue that we have in the United States. We're so focused on it being the richest country in the world that we're not taking care of, like Venkat says. We're taking money and just distributing it to everywhere else instead of keeping it here. That's always been a problem, because we're the world police, yes, but fix the issues at home and then spread out. That's never going to be the case, because we're such a we're so war centric that when it comes to anything involving military or whatnot, that's the first thing we jump to, because we make so much money. And again, it goes back to capitalism. We fund, we invest, we do all this stuff because to us it makes money. But when it comes to distribution of the wealth, you're never going to get that evenly across the board, because there's always that one person that goes, and like Solar says, why should I take my money and give to that person out there? Why should I give it to Venkat or Ricardo? Because in their job, I work from the bottom up. I build my business. Why do I need to help that person? That's their problem. Let them fix it. And it's like, no, you could actually share the wealth that you have and help distribute it evenly, so that, you know, for all we know, the next person behind you could be a significant importance to the economy. But you're never going to get that, because, again, we have so much people on one side saying socialism is bad, it's this, it's negative, and on the other side, it's like, well, we're rich. Why should I care what you people are doing at the bottom? That's not my problem. So that's the problem that we're having. But, you know, I just wanted to interject that point, because that's the problem that we face in the United States. As the richest country in the world, we can never use socialism or welfare factors to help enable the population, because it's always a negative connotation that comes with it. As for why that is, we will never know, but that might be attributed to the institution or the system that we're in terms of finance-wise.
All right, so I want to go into the next video on the gun violence. This is from 2021. We're going to take a look at this, and we'll come back on our other end with the thoughts.
It should have been a celebration. The Bucks winning an NBA championship. Instead, gunshots, chaos, people running for their lives.
Where do we go? Where do we go?
Part of the chronic gun violence epidemic surging in recent months. The map shows it all unfolding. More than 1,000 incidents, more than 430 dead, 1,000 wounded in 1 week.
3-2. Swing and a miss.
We saw it begin last Saturday.
8-4.
As we started our investigation, gunshots outside of Nationals Park. That same night, a mother and her baby caught in the crossfire in a corner store in West Philadelphia, wounding the 1-year-old.
I'm tired of this. I'm sick and tired of this.
Day after day, we saw so many children affected by this violence. One boy shot in a bedroom.
And the bullet just went through the wall, went through his head.
Tristan Jaden Rosas in San Antonio, Texas, was only 15 and playing video games, hit by a stray bullet.
I should have been there, because when you promise a kid that you're going to protect them, that's a promise you can never take back.
Altogether, an unspeakable toll. More than 39 dead, 94 wounded under age 18. And of the deceased, 6 children under 12. We also saw mass shootings play out across the country, 18 incidents in 12 communities, including one that senselessly took the life of Corey Saunders and wounded 4 others.
Mass shootings are up a lot. They went from a 400 base in 2019 to 600, 700.
And sadly, we followed as reports of suspected domestic violence ticked up. At least 44 cases, among them a mother and child allegedly kidnapped Monday.
A female and her child was abducted and brought out here to Cheney Lake. At Cheney Lake, there was an altercation that occurred.
Virtually no area of the country was immune, but as ABC dug into the numbers, they showed violence disproportionately hit poorer and urban areas.
People are afraid to go to malls. People are afraid to go to theaters. People are afraid to go to parks.
From Los Angeles to Chicago to New York, where this stunning video caught our attention. 2 men, guns drawn in broad daylight.
Are people more brazen in carrying their weapons? Has something shifted?
I don't think there's any doubt. But the data here in New York City is more guns on the scene of shootings, more rounds being fired.
New York City saw a 73% increase in shootings in May 2021 compared to the same time last year. On Tuesday, Commissioner Dermot Shea told us a lethal mix of factors is largely driving the surge. Gang violence, budget cuts, COVID shutting down the courts, leaving a backlog of more than 5,000 gun cases.
Taking the gun off the street is great, but really what we need is the individual carrying the gun off the street.
Increasing gun arrests and targeting repeat offenders has led to some signs of success. A dip in the rate last month. Shea remains unsatisfied.
Who are the victims?
When you look at who's getting shot in this city right now, it's about 97% people of color. It's way off the charts.
For Chief Judith Harrison, the fight is personal.
As an African American, obviously, it was painful to hear that. He said 90% of your victims are people of color.
Yes. Horrifying statistic, but it's not just about statistics. It's not just about people of color. It's about everyone.
Philadelphia facing an even worse explosion.
It's been a minute since I've done this.
On Wednesday, Philly police allowing us to ride along. A small number of streets infected with gun violence.
We see this corner store out here. I want to come up in person. There were 6 people shot. So this is another corner here where we have multiple shootings.
The streets that night quiet until they weren't.
And now there's reports of shots fired at another end of the city.
A shooting outside this restaurant famous for its cheesesteaks.
That's a shell casing right on the ground right there. See where the white circle's drawn around it. I don't know what it is. You get closer to 2 o'clock, stuff starts popping.
As we waited at the scene, the horrible news.
So he was pronounced deceased.
The person here
Correct.
died.
Correct.
That's horrible.
Philadelphia Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw telling us the argument was over a parking space.
A lot of the beefs or social media disputes or whatever, they're being resolved with a firearm.
Outlaw acknowledges the challenges of policing in the era of George Floyd and building community trust.
I'm a cop and I'm a black woman. And so because I have all of these lived experiences and these different perspectives, I understand why the police do what we do. But I also understand the hurt and the torment in our communities.
In so many neighborhoods, small numbers of repeat offenders terrorizing overwhelmingly law-abiding citizens.
I said, I'm shot. And then I felt the heat and my legs were all running away.
This Philly resident shot in the leg this week, along with another man standing in front of her home. She did not want to show her face on camera, at times tears filling her eyes.
I shouldn't have to be afraid to stay in my home.
At the end of a sobering week, we're left with the vigils,
Corey is looking down on us right now.
the lives lost, the families grieving, and the almost certain knowledge that next week it's all but guaranteed to happen again.
All right, there we go. So obviously, black Americans, blacks in general, are facing gang violence at a extremely ridiculously high rate of over 90% of the shootings. Solo, what do you think here about that piece we just witnessed here?
I think gang violence is a problem in the black communities, and but I think that we really need to dig into, the gun violence and the origins of how guns came into the community. I was just speaking on this not too long ago. Vlad TV, he was interviewing Rick Ross and Mob James and AZ. And AZ is not the rapper AZ, but the AZ that was in Harlem selling drugs. They did the movie Paid in Full. He was the main character in that reenactment of what was said of his life experiences. And all of them said a very interesting thing. All of them seemed to be one, clueless as to how the drugs and the guns came into the community. And another thing that I found to be interesting was them saying that, well, once it got to a certain point, and the AZ really said this verbatim, he said it has to be some type of involvement with non-criminals, federal. Because he said once we began to get to a certain point as far as financially, that somebody would get killed or somebody would get arrested or something happen. So it almost seems as if whoever is allowing this to happen is going to allow it to a certain point, and then he's going to, I guess, put the top on the potential of what could be done if left unchecked. Because a lot of times when you're talking about the inner city, a lot of this gun violence that you see is based off of their conditions and them being in a situation where it's mass poverty. So you have a formula to create these scenarios that would be miseducation, that will be economic castration, and that will be lack of access to proper housing. So these are the elements of creating situations that you see in the inner city. You're talking about the gang violence. So we have to look at this, and culture also is plays a significant role into maintaining this, bringing the new young people in to be indoctrinated into a way of life that is suicidal, in my opinion. So you're talking about something that's being done systematically. I mean, it's almost cliche when somebody says, well, we don't bring the guns into the community, so much so that we are tired of hearing it. Like, oh, here we go with the... But the reality is that we don't bring guns into the community. In fact, you were just showing what happened in Philly, I want you to. I put a video in the back chat. It's only about maybe like 2 minutes. I want you to play that video. I want you to play that video because on that video, it's talking about how it was a sheriff that was selling guns, got caught selling guns to gang members in Philadelphia. So I think that what's going on is a lot deeper than what we think. And, you know, we're looking at the end result of something.
Anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm gonna have that video in a second. Let's go now to the political prophet amongst men, MD. What's up, MD, on the panel?
Yeah. Peace, man. Sorry being late, but I'm still great, man.
MD.
It's been a hectic day. What's up, Solo? What's happening? I have no context of the conversation, Bankhead. I literally just got in. I had to reset my phone. Like I was in a bad spot, like real bad.
Okay, well, we're
I
pretty much.
felt like I needed a weapon where I was at.
so we were just we went over Columbine. We went over copycatters of that people were motivated and influenced by the Columbine shooting. We then went into back in 2021, where there was a week of unprecedented shootings across the country, over 1,000 different shootings, multiple deaths. The majority of the people that are being shot, over 90%, were Black people. So that's where we're at so far in the conversation, in general. But I also mentioned, I was telling Ricardo and Solar about how I'm very suspicious on the fact that, yes, people do commit these atrocities like the guys in Columbine, but they never talk about the bullying history and what got them there. And I think ignoring that is just a tragic mistake. And it just leaves room for more of these types of shootings. The moment we're comfortable with society, having certain people within society having less than, and we're comfortable with that idea, the more and more we'll have more of these shootings. Yes, we do have a mental health issue, but there's also that issue, the bullying, the intimidation, the ostracizing of certain people. And then that makes for a bigger problem down the road.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. You know, no question that there's a history of unstable people. I just say that word, unstable people having access to weapons, and it shouldn't be. Now, Vacat, me and you've had battles over the course of months involving this subject in terms of like anti-gun legislation and all of that. You know, I'll say this. I think every person has the right to defend themselves, right? But every person doesn't have the right to instill the power within themselves to infringe on somebody else. You don't have that right. Do I think that there should be more steps taken in terms of obtaining a weapon? Yes, I do. Without a doubt. You know what I mean? In terms of a lot of these people that's accessing weapons and being able to commit these heinous attacks on innocent people, I've told you this before, Venkat, and I'll say it again. There are more people in this country that are responsible gun owners than criminals that has access to weapons in any sense of the form. I think if you allow the people to express their freedom to bear arms, not to say that it's going to get rid of everything, because it certainly won't, but you will see a cautionary method being utilized with a lot of these people that's committing crime. That's just what it is. As far as a lot of the school shootings, yes, the foundation of that goes down to bullying. I look at organizations like Anti-Bully Gang. They do great work in the community to understand that a lot of these people that are being diminished within their school, they're not the only one, and a lot of that is really isolation. Once a person feels isolated, they tend to try to get themselves out of the corner, get themselves out of the box. Some people might say it's instinctive based on what the environment is, from an emotional standpoint. Again, if a person understands that they're not alone within that emotional capacity, I think that'll alleviate a lot of that. It goes back to the societal issues again. We so caught up in what society thinks of us. We so caught up in trying to uphold some type of identity that we think that's acceptable within the society. When you get outcast, when you get ostracized, it like I said, it's like a phoenix trying to break out the box. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, we have situations like the Columbine shooting and the Parkland shooting and a myriad of other type of school shootings. We shouldn't have to be that way in terms of how we view society, and I think that's the core issue. Hands down. But I'll always stand true. Everybody got the right to defend themselves. Now, bearing arms, do that mean that I should have the right to hold weapons? Depending on the situation, depending on the parameters within the rule of law, yeah. But there's still the rule of law that you got to follow, point blank, period. There should be more stringent background on a lot of these people in order to obtain weapons. I think that'll kill, hell, probably 50%. And then, especially in the South, where we've got these loophole laws and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, a weapon. And now, as far as registration, that's a whole nother topic, and we might get into that. Do I think a weapon should be registered with the federal government? No, per se, but you shouldn't have the right to privately sell a weapon based on the tracking of said weapon with no registration. But I'll just leave it at that for now.
All right, thanks, MD. Before we go to Ricardo, I do have Solar's video, so I'm gonna play it right now. So we'll be back on the other end of the video.
Jim, Jackie, some people are again pass stricter gun laws. Now, the court documents, they do not show this deputy was involved with the Roxborough High School shooting. However, people still find it troubling the guns he allegedly sold were linked to that incident.
The fact that it was illegal guns gotten from law enforcement, that is pretty shocking, and I mean, it's pretty messed up.
People tell us they're disappointed. Federal authorities say former Philadelphia Sheriff's Deputy Samir Ahmad knew he was illegally selling guns and drugs. Part of court filings unsealed allege Ahmad illegally sold a revolver to a man he did not know was an FBI informant. On October 13th, an FBI camera recorded him selling these two loaded guns to the same informant. The FBI and ATF traced those guns back to the September Roxborough High School shooting that killed Nicholas Elizalde. The court filings did not say Deputy Ahmad is a suspect in the shooting itself, nor how he got the weapons. Then last week, federal investigators say they caught Ahmad again on camera selling the informant a gun and crystal meth. The ATF and FBI arrested Ahmad at the sheriff's office in Center City the next day.
I definitely feel like he shouldn't be in any sort of position of power anymore.
Until we stop the flow of those firearms that are being diverted underground, we're going to continue to have these problems.
Ceasefire PA sees this crime as another reason lawmakers should adopt stricter gun policies for Pennsylvania.
Shrink the sources, shrink this diversion of the supply of guns, and when we do that and keep them just with responsible gun owners, we're going to save some lives.
The disappointment, leaving Sienna Vieira with less faith in justice.
I feel like some of this stuff, a lot of this stuff is usually just swept under the rug, and there's not any sort of like position, like accountability for this.
Well, in a statement, the sheriff's office wrote it is cooperating with local, state, and federal authorities. Ahmaud is in federal custody here in Philadelphia. Jim?
So there we go. Police doing not what police should be doing. It's go ahead, Sola.
So they never really they kind of hinted upon, but they never really went into where did he get these guns from? And where is he getting these drugs from? And so they pinpointed the gun to an actual shooting that took place in the high school. Okay. The cops have these programs where they ask residents to turn their guns in. But these are not the people that's using these guns in shootings. These are the people that are, most likely registered gun owners to get the guns off the streets. I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10, the people that's turning in the guns aren't the criminals. So that's just something to keep in mind. Where did he get these guns from? Where is he getting these drugs from? And the fact that they have programs where they collect guns from citizens. You don't have to tell them where you got the gun from. You can just turn it in. No questions asked. So I think that these are some of the things we got to keep in mind in terms of, this thing. And I think what's being done is that the way they even told the stories, even the one that you played, is in a form of certain propaganda. Like it's suggesting that, well, the problem is the guns and that we need to create stricter gun laws to prevent. No. The problem more so is corruption. And the problem more so is people having their own political agendas. More so than actually, the guns. Because really, if everybody really had guns, I think there would be less violence.
That's a fact.
If everybody had guns, people would think twice before they try to rob somebody with a gun.
Yeah, I beg to differ on that one.
As I said, that's just my opinion. But so I think that is more so what's going on is forms of corruption. And, when you're looking at the inner cities, a lot of these things are drug related. So you can't separate the drugs and the guns when you're talking about inner city. Gangs, guns, and drugs. It's all related. So it's not necessarily about a whole thing where it's just the guns are the problem.
I think when you say everybody have guns and it will be better, I think if everybody had guns, we'll see a lot more of this going on right here.
I just shot myself.
So
All
so
day
wait a
long.
minute. So
All
Van
day
Cass,
long.
I kind
blaming
of
bad training on. So you're just saying everybody just gonna be so ignorant that
No, I'm not
it's just
saying
gonna be like
everybody, but I think a large amount of us are going to be. I mean, look at everything else that we've have in society: cars, uh, just the just using a knife that's for the kitchen, and they're cutting themselves. I just think that there's going to be a large segment of people. You don't just have a gun and you're like, oh, I'm responsible and I know how to use it specifically. No, you don't. No, you don't. We have dumbasses in our society. And I think a lot of moments like that are going to happen. I just think I don't think that we're safe having some Three Stooges ass type niggas walking around with guns. I don't think that makes the things better or safer. I don't think so. And if that was the case, like a lot of these states that have all these gun laws that are pro gun, and we keep seeing these mass shootings, we keep seeing all these things happen, and never once do we see Captain Saberho show up with the gun and settle things down. Usually a bunch of people dead, then the police shoot the guy that caused the problem. Same point we keep seeing over and over. More often than not, that's usually the outcome.
well, that's because the teachers didn't have guns.
I think that would be that would be
There was not armed,
spectacularly bad.
and that was not armed security at the school. You
Yeah.
could also say, like, if it was armed security at the school, then maybe, just maybe, they could have prevented that mass shooting.
Yeah, but that doesn't seem to be the case at Stoneman Douglas, though, because we had a what you call it, security in the building, and he chose to run away. And
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do with a high power AR-15? What are you supposed to do?
That's not his problem. That's not my problem, because Republicans say they need the right to have military grade weapons. So again, Republican Party subjected the country to a situation we shouldn't have been in. Why are military grade weapons in society? That makes no sense.
Yeah, I think it goes back into, once again, how the country was established. There's a thing that a certain portion of American population believes that, that they having their right to bear arms, and not just regular handguns, but military grade weapons, is in case of forms of tyranny that can occur. So obviously, a certain portion of America is not totally comfortable with relinquishing their firearms and put in the trust of the federal government to have people that's armed with their best interests at hand. So that would be what they say, is the underlining thing. And we know this to be, historically true based off of the Revolutionary War.
So you're telling me that guys that have died for centuries now had the foresight to say, oh yeah, first of all, we're gonna put the little powder in there, we're gonna shake it up a little quick, and then we're gonna put that in there, and then jack it up a little bit, and then shoot, pop one shot at a little time. You're telling me that they were like okay with the idea that in the future we're going to be able to let off multiple rounds at a time for excess amount of time, and that's going to be good. That's so at this point, why don't we just go to grenade launchers, and why don't we go to bombs? Because that has to be the next evolutionary step. There was no idea that those guys in that time would have known that the guns would be at this level. And I think there's a point where you create insane scenarios not being logical.
No,
you can have your gun, but I don't think nobody needs those rounds being able to be let off in ridiculously fast fashion, killing off an excessive amount of people. Like there's something that's wrong with that, fundamentally wrong.
Well, and I don't think it was based off of the quality or the advancement of guns. I think the idea still is valid of
the police state.
The fact that if they don't have guns, that they can be imposed on by the state. So it's not about the quality of the gun, more so than the fact that these people have now the capability of imposing themselves if we don't have guns. So when the advancement of guns, obviously with the advancement of guns, they can't use the powder guns still and say that, well, we have the right to carry, because now they can impose themselves with better weapons. So as the weapons become more advanced, well, okay, yeah, we need that AR-15 too, because if y'all guys coming in with AR-15s and we still got these powder guns, it would be kind of the similar scenario back then with the powder guns and we just having knives.
Who is the you guys? Is it the federal government?
Well, yeah, it would be.
So let me get this straight. So a bunch of hicks on a ranch is gonna stop the federal freaking government, the world's biggest military on the planet, is gonna get stopped by some hicks on a hill. And we're gonna believe this fantasy? Like, this makes no sense to me.
That's why it says a well-regulated militia. They did it during the Revolutionary War.
But
I mean,
let's remember a lot of those hicks you're talking about were former military. Were ones that was you're talking about a lot. The hicks that you're talking about are the ones that's actually the foot soldiers within the military. These are the people that's joining the military and being military trained. And these are the people that are targeted in terms of, trying to get to go into the military.
I think those people you're talking about is those people that were on January 6th. I think that's those people.
Well, Van Cat, you got to remember, the FBI not too long ago said that the most dangerous threat as far as domestic terrorism was who?
White supremacists.
The white supremacist organizations. Those are the people that's in the woods training every day.
Yep.
And that's them hicks you talking about.
But why?
That's training every day. Go ahead.
But why are they training though, MD? What are they training for? Like, are we going back to how the inception of the country started, where we had we're on the plains of the great Northwest or something, and we're trying to prevent cowboys from coming into the ranch? Like, what are they training?
Hey, I mean, you would have to ask them that, but then I would ask, I would ask a cross-reference question: why are you not training? As a result, you know what I'm saying?
That's a good question. I can't.
So I mean, so go ahead, so.
Well, I think that the reason why they feel as though that they have to do these things, if you notice, there was a trend going back into, and this is not going off topic, but I like to show patterns that whenever you see the government making some type of move in terms of changing status norms, you have a response from the majority population, which is white America. And this goes back into the Civil War. Once the Civil War passed and they begin to enact certain privileges to Black Americans, you had a very radical response from the common population of common majority population, white America, which was forms of terrorism. And you see the same thing play out during the civil rights movement, that you have this kind of radical response. Once you have these different things passed for as affirmative action, and these different things that was implemented from protests. So I think today a lot of people in the post-Obama era, they kind of have a very radical stance on where the country is going. You have a situation where you have a declining white population. They're already projecting by 2043 that they will be a minority in terms of people with color in America, as opposed to themselves, which at this time is the majority. So that troubles a lot of white people. And they feel as though that the government has turned on them. Because beforehand, they lived in a society where not only that they were privileged, but they was even protected so much so that even when they committed crimes amongst, black people, that they would get off. So this is a changing America. And all the while you have mass immigration. You have that's why all these things are a key element within their support of Donald Trump. Seal the borders,
Yeah, but
tougher laws in terms of abortion. You're talking about a group of people that see what once was a white America beginning to change. So they saying, well, the government is pretty much beginning to show what their true intentions is. So let's get ready. Let's get ready, because we're not going to stand for this. So as you see, as time goes on, it's becoming more aggressive all the way up until January 6th. It's becoming more aggressive and more aggressive. And now you have these white military, which is former military, by the way. You got to really keep that in mind. These are the people that fought in Iraq. A lot of these people are former soldiers. So they ain't just some hick that's just grabbing some gun.
All right, Ricardo, you wanted to make a point earlier. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, I was saying, but whose fault is that though, Solar? That America's changing. That it's not, for them. Like I get the point that you're trying to, you try to demonstrate, but again, that's not our fault. That's the globalized world that you're in. Eventually, white people, and I hate to say it, would have to wake up and smell the coffee here. The world is changing because we're free there's free movement. There's nothing now, and I've said this from the beginning of the inception of the show. Nothing now gets there's nowhere in the world you go that there's not one thing that's affected by the other, because we're so globalized. Everything is interconnected at some point. So I don't understand the idea why a white person will feel, oh my God, I'm losing the country is changing, and oh my God, like it's been predicted from years ago that it was going to change. So we're becoming more interracial, to the point where I guess in their mind, dilution is not a thing that they would accept. You're gonna have to accept it because it's here. Everywhere you look, there's something at some point. So the true definition of white, I don't know what would be a true definition of white to them, because at one point you had one drop and the one drop rule and all this nonsense that doesn't make sense. It's like if you look a certain way or you're projected a certain way. Like for instance, if I particular person and I will go, okay, well that person's white, and they're gonna turn around and tell me, hey, but my dad is black. But I'm like, but we're fully Caucasian. How would I know if you're white or black? Like I would know, because based on that, we always use the skin color thing here in this country. So how would they know if the population is changing if they're just gonna go by appearance only? Like if I tell you in the world that we live in, I could say I identify as white, but I look black. So that's a whole other thing. But you know what I'm saying? Like I don't understand. Are they fearful of that? Is it a skin tone thing, or is it just white supremacy being diluted and they're just terrified that everybody's gonna look mixed or black? Like I don't understand.
Well, I would say to your point, Ricardo, it's a stupid thing, because it's from their own design. Remember, I always say,
thank you.
When
somebody said it, because I was just, it's by their own design. Like
right, because I've always said, right, when it comes to capitalism in and of itself is organically global. You can't have capitalism within the nation. It'll eat itself. You know what I'm saying? If we're looking at a hyper nationalized focus on capitalism, it'll eat itself alive based on deflation. It'll be so much competition within the nation, not enough money, that it'll be deflated. You can't have a capitalist society and not trade or do business with all the other nations. It's a global thing. It's naturally global, right? With that being said, the society changes. Again, what do we say, Van Cat? Society in itself is naturally progressive. There's no such thing as conservatism, like in reality.
That's right.
You know what
That's
I'm saying?
right.
It's naturally progressive. So that means naturally, white people who are the genetic defects of the earth are going to be wiped off the face of the planet. That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? I didn't choose it. They did. You know what I'm saying? So in the essence of what we call conservatism within the nation, these ultra nativists, nationalists, believe that their fight is to keep some type of culture alive within America. It's not going to happen. No matter how hard you fight it, no matter how hard you try, as we always say, Ricardo, conservatism is what is dead. That's just what it is. But as a result, we see all these spots of neo-nationalist terrorism going on, around the country. Great replacement theory, like a perfect example with the dude Gendron in Buffalo. Perfect example of it. So when we look at what these white people try to do, like I say, it's not all. I ain't gonna put that on all white people. But what a lot of these MAGA maniacs and these ultra neo-nationalists try to do, they try to preserve something that is not meant to be preserved because it's not within the natural order of things. As you saw, the world should be a capitalist society. You said it. I didn't say it. I agree with it. But it's going to be to your own detriment at the end of the day. Because as the economics go, so does the society go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from a labor to elite aspect, yeah, you could make an argument if it should be there or not. But from the totality of the society in itself, it's meant for the societies to coexist, to mingle. I didn't choose for y'all to be genetically defective. I didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? So in that sense, you're gonna be wiped out. It may take a couple decades. Hell, it may take a couple of generations. It may take a couple of I don't know. But eventually it's gonna happen if this is the type of system that you want globally. It's just gonna happen. Now that's not to say that what we call the system of white supremacy won't still exist, because I'm pretty sure in some facets it will.
Of course.
But in the case of your genetic survival, as Dr. Francis Cress Wilson would say, yeah, it's inevitable that's going to be wiped out based on the choices that you made.
And
yeah, well,
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, so I want to go into the final shooting or gun video that we have here. It goes back to like what Ricardo was saying about mental health. This goes back to 2012. Let's take a look at this video here.
This is an ABC News special report.
To update you on the situation, if you're just now joining us, at least 14 dead, 50 injured. A lot of those injuries are severe after a lone gunman opens fire in a theater outside of Denver, Colorado, in Aurora. We want you to listen actually to this cell phone video that's just now coming into the ABC newsroom. This will be the first time that we've actually seen or heard this video, so take a listen.
Good thing we're not in that movie here.
And you see images like that, and you can hear the panic, you can hear the chaos, you can see kind of the folks scrambling to get out of what must have been a horrible scene, and it just brings back these memories of Columbine. It brings back memories of Virginia Tech, these other mass shootings that the country has seen in recent years, and just makes you again, as always, wonder what could have been the motivation, who was this guy, why would he do this, and what appears at this point, again, to be a very well-planned attack, not only because of this explosive device. He brought in this canister, which reportedly could have been tear gas. He came with multiple weapons. He had explosives allegedly back in his apartment. This was obviously not someone who snapped on the spur of the moment. This was someone who plotted this for whatever reason we do not know just yet, but this was someone who deeply intended to inflict harm and take life, and so far he has taken 14 of them.
10 years
years ago, on July 20th, 2012, 12 people lost their lives and dozens more were injured at a midnight showing of Batman: The Dark Knight Rises when James Holmes opened fire in an Aurora, Colorado movie theater. Holmes was ultimately sentenced to 12 life sentences plus an extra 3,000 years in prison for the mass murder. Before the massacre, psychiatrist Dr. Lynn Fenton spent months providing mental health care to Holmes, and after she spent years questioning whether she could have done something to stop the Aurora theater shooting from happening at all. Joining us now is Dr. Lynn Fenton, who co-wrote the new book, Aurora, the psychiatrist who treated the movie theater killer, tells her story about why she felt it was so important to share her story for the first time. Dr. Fenton, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. Holmes was a graduate student at the University of Colorado when he contacted the campus mental health center for help with his obsessive thoughts of killing people and his anxiety in social situations. You took his case and were the last mental health professional to see him before his rampage. Describe what he was like in those meetings that you had with him leading up to the shooting.
Well, he was extremely anxious. And very awkward, sort of beyond just a smart and nerdy guy, but moved kind of awkwardly, almost robotically sometimes. And in talking to him, it was very hard to get him to say anything more than just a couple words or a brief sentence.
And what might he say when he did say a couple of words?
Well, he came in of his own accord, but it was actually at the behest of some of his supervisors in the neuroscience PhD program because he was so nervous and awkward in his lab presentations. But the thoughts of killing people, he just sort of added in almost incidentally, oh, I have thoughts of killing people, which is such a vague statement. And so I spent a lot of the 6 visits over several months trying to understand what was behind that. Was he going to do something? Or were they just unbidden thoughts that he didn't like?
But once somebody does tell a psychiatrist, I have thoughts of killing people, and obviously you have the confidentiality. So at what point are you able to kind of raise this red flag that you have this client who desires to kill?
Holmes never did this, but if a person said, I have this target, there's a person I want to kill, or maybe a group of people, or I'd like to shoot up a theater, anything along those lines that's more specific than the vague statements that he had, then you can inform the police and have them look into that. And you can even put them on something called a mental health hold, which is where you can detain someone for up to 3 days to gather more information of what's going on.
So shortly before the shooting, Holmes mailed you a notebook. Inside the notebook, which was titled Of Life, were Holmes' insights into my mind of madness, as he described it, that contained detailed plans of his desire to kill. The notebook arrived in your mailbox days after the shooting. What would you have done had you received the notebook earlier?
Oh my gosh, if I had seen that, of course, I would have instantly called law enforcement. But I think he did it on purpose. Like a lot of folks who do events like this will have a manifesto of types that they send off just a little before the shooting. And essentially that's what this was. And it was an attempt to explain, why he did this, but it makes no sense to a sane person, but it really goes through the details of why he picked the theaters and how he cased the joint and, when he was going to arrive. And it's very chilling.
And especially we see there all those pages of why. What are your thoughts about why we're seeing this rise in mass shootings 10 years still after that theater massacre?
Why? It's really hard to say. I think some of that is perhaps some really twisted online culture. We know that young folks are struggling more than ever with mental health, so that may be a factor. And, no doubt the easy access to lethal means.
Right. And you are right, because it does seem like we're seeing a lot of 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds pulling the trigger in these mass shootings.
Okay. All right. So Solar was making a point earlier, so we'll go back to Solar. But as you can see in the video, how they broke down his psychiatrist that he was seeing before the shooting and all of what happened afterwards. So go ahead, Solar.
I gotta remember what I was going to say. Um, um, what was I forgot the point that I wanted to make on the last um video. What were we talking about? We were talking about.
Go ahead, Venkat.
Yeah. We was talking. I think we was talking about the gun violence and the right to carry, and but yeah, I didn't, I kind of lost my train of thought, but it was within that realm, but yeah, I lost it.
All right. And what about this whole theater shooting? I know, like back in that time, you're hearing about people getting shot up in the theater. So even back then, I can remember being worried when the lights out. You're in a vulnerable position, and we've seen all kinds of shootings and all over in all kinds of scenarios in a church, in a supermarket. There's like no safe haven at all. Like you're just, you have a society that is a complete chaos at any given moment in any given area in the United States. And I mean, there's so many issues there. Just the obvious, terror in the society, but then also how that affects business in general too. Who wants to go somewhere if they feel like there's going to be violence breaking out or potential for some harm to happen? So the gun issue is a huge issue. You're losing lives. That every life being lost, that's an opportunity for workers, for customers, for money to be made, and all these things. Besides the fact that you lost a life, that should be above and beyond. But it's just an inefficient society where people are just getting killed off, and then with every death there's hysteria, and then maybe 2-3 days later, then it calms down, then there's a new one, and it calms down. Like this trend is forever going. And to go back with the this guy and many others, the mental health issue. So Ricardo talked about earlier about, do we want to use that as a crutch for all these incidents and whatnot? But then we also can't ignore the real life mental health people that are walking around us in society that we don't even know.
Yeah, I think definitely it's a rise of the mental health, that needs to be dealt with. I think also, and it's just where my mind goes. We really need to look into like the MK Ultra thing, And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but I kind of find it to be, interesting how the psychiatrist was explaining how this person was, and but I did remember, before I get into that, what I was going to say. Somebody was making I think MD was making a statement about, well, it's just inevitable that people are going to mate with each other, which is going to result in white genetic annihilation. And he said it very, casually. But that's why they create the system to keep certain groups of people down, because they understand that. So what you think is something that's inevitable, they are in position to try to not make that happen. So when we look at this thing on a macro level, we got to understand that, well, yeah, you got into, well, why do the 1% don't want to give, to the 99% and all that? Because the majority of that 1% are white folks, and they designed a system that is based off of the fact that they're white, and within the system, white people get privilege over other races of people. So when you begin to see that system collapse, you're going to have a certain response from white folks. It's really just as simple as that. They don't want to give up their privilege because they know on an even playing field, as what MD said, well, they're just going to get it genetically annihilated. Well, that's easy for a black person to say. But from a white standpoint, you could go around and ask, white people, well, do you want your kids to be white? And most of them will say yes. Do you want your grandkids to be white? Most of them will say yes. And then you got to ask yourself, what steps do they got to take to maintain that reality? And when you really ponder on it, that's why they miseducate you. That's why they give you a hard time with loans, and that's why they relegate you to inner city communities and put drugs and guns into the community. And because in any other situation, it wouldn't make sense. Why would they be destroying their fellow Americans? Why would they allow a foreign group of people in Central America to bring drugs into American communities? Because ultimately, it's not American communities. This is inner city communities. So they make that distinction by the mere fact that you still see people classifying things and calling it white neighborhoods. Well, this is a white neighborhood. Clearly shows that they make a distinction. So in order to really understand it from their perspective, they're white, and they want to remain white. And they want to benefit off a system that has been designed to give white people privilege.
All right, thanks, Solar. On the panel now, we got the final boss, Mr. Straight Talk. What is going on, Trevor?
It's about time.
Yeah, well, y'all finally talking about something that I feel like I have to come up here for. First of all, y'all
wait
can
for
hear
the
me?
next segment. It's right up your alley.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, so peace to everybody on the panel. Stolen Mind, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you in a while, man.
Peace.
I just got one. At first, I got a question for MD because I don't want to misrepresent you. Earlier, you were talking about not being for gun registration, which I agree. I don't think, especially in the state of Florida, you shouldn't register your guns. None of ours are registered, and things
Why?
to that nature. Why do you need to register them if you're a law-abiding citizen and you have the right to carry them? Why you need to register them with the government?
You have to register your car, right?
Your
car
that's
has to
different.
be registered, right?
That's for insurance purposes. Let me real quick before you finish. Why would you need registration when there's proof of purchase at the? That's why I said the loophole is the issue.
And
I don't believe in the loophole.
That's what I'm getting with, MD, is if you could legally purchase a gun in the state of Florida where a bill of sale will suffice. As long as you could show proof of ownership, you go to a gun show, you could show proof of ownership. But you did say, and this is where I don't want to misrepresent you. You said, I think you then turned around and said that in some cases they should be registered. So you can't have it both ways.
Well, no, let me clarify what I was saying. I was saying in terms of how we view, and I was actually leading to what I just said. In the cases of how we view registration, yes. If you have a history on your background, now first and foremost, let me say this. I think at any point in time, even if you're a felon, you have some type of, I know in Georgia, if you have any case of domestic violence, you can't own a weapon, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the case of how I'm talking about registration, in terms of your prior history. Now, but that's not necessarily saying that you're registering it with the federal government. I'm not saying that. Just saying that you have that asterisk next to your name in terms of who you are, what you did, so on and so forth. I do believe in that.
So it raises a red flag.
Yeah, red flag law. Yeah, I don't have an issue with a red flag law.
Okay, so it's just like me. Like I have, I've been arrested a couple of times, but nothing. I don't have any felonies, so which is why I could, why I could carry. But so okay, so I got that cleared up. So the next thing is, because I knew this was coming. This is what I was waiting for, the whole mental health thing. Because you listen to me for more than 5 seconds, you know how I feel about this. Let me just pull up a stat here. So between 1982 and 2023, there's been 149 mass shootings carried out in the United States. 80% of them have been carried out by white people. 26% by black. Those are the only two that I care about for this statistic. And of gun owners in the United States, 38% of them are white and 24% of them are black. So black gun owners are kind of right up there. I mean, it's what, a 12% difference, but they're still up there with white gun owners. Now, we always like to say that, oh, black people are the majority in prison, without figuring that we're outnumbered by 40 million. So in this case, we're going to look at it this same way. 80% of mass shootings in this country have been carried out by white people. So do we have a mental issue here, or do we just have a supremacy issue here? That's my question to the panel.
Probably both. Yeah, I don't know what everybody else think, but
Trevor brought that data up here for you.
I mean, it's a great point you're making there, Trevor. But the funny thing is, and I always think about this, is that one segment of a group can do something, and the small majority of that group will do something, and it becomes the entirety of that group. Here you got white people, overwhelmingly, usually it's white males, usually the younger ones, and they're doing that. And yet we have this idea that when we see someone walking down the street that's black, we walk the other side of the street because they're going to be the violent one. Meanwhile, we have white men killing people at an alarming rate, and they're not getting any of that baggage.
So to that point, so I'm glad you brought that up, because you guys know that I just recently found out about King Von. So yeah, I'm late. And I've been looking into his story and everything like that. It's funny though, like we won't say that he had mental issues. We'll just say that he was a savage. But we always afford grace to the white people that have a known history of doing this. I was watching a video the other day of a guy that plotted to do a mass murder in a McDonald's. This happened in the 80s. Like, there's documented
the first mass shooting.
Yes, there's documented history of this happening, but when they do it, the first thing you want to do is give them a little grace and call mental. Me and Venkat have had this war forever about this whole mental issue. I agree with him that sometimes it is a mental issue, and that's a problem in the policy right there, how people with documented mental issues can purchase firearms. So I have an issue there. But for this guy that you're showing, the Aurora guy that did the shooting in the movie theater, all that shit is planned. Dylan Storm Roof, all that shit is planned. You have the you got the guy that went to the grocery store. There's videos of him planning this thing out.
Yes.
the Columbine guys, we like to say, oh, because they're kids and they were bullied my ass. I got bullied when I was a kid. Never once. My dad is a gun owner. Like, my dad got gats, and never once did I ever say, you know what, let me go break into the gun safe and get a gun out and go take care of business. Never once did I do that. So what I'm just saying, I'm okay with giving the mental issue to a very, very small percentage. But when I show you a stat that 149 of the mass shootings was committed by 80% white people, because the same way that they could say it's 2 million of us in prison, most of them nonviolent, by the way, but the same way they could see is 2 million of us in prison, and they try to judge all of us off of that. We always get judged by the worst of us. Is the same way I could turn around and say, hey, y'all are on some supremacy shit. And that's the reason why they're doing it. They ain't got nothing to do with no mental stuff. But that's it. I'm gonna land my plane. I'm still listening, but I'll be interested.
Hold on, Trevor. Don't leave yet, because I'm telling you, the segment is on you right now. Go ahead, MD.
I was gonna say, yeah, I 100% agree with that. And also, the way that we look at doctor-patient confidentiality, I think that's some BS too. Because ain't no way that you can justify watching an event happen and try to hold it up under some type of HIPAA law, or, to me, that's BS. You know what I'm saying? If you see the signs, hell, if it was me, I would be obligated to let law enforcement.
And then you think that she should have done more? The psychiatrist of that the Aurora shooter,
she sat there and said that the man told her that he wanted to kill somebody. I mean, again, it's one thing to psychologically try to break down what that means. It's another thing to speak words into reality. Like I said, again, I'm saying the way confidentiality works, I think is broken. I think it's broken because this has happened multiple times where psychiatrists know exactly what's happening. Then when it happened, it's too late. Now she said if she would have got it sooner, she would have turned it in. That would have broken confidentiality because it came from the patient, even in written form. That's how HIPAA law works. So she basically double spoke in the interview, is what I'm saying. And I don't think that doctors should have any right to negate information based on confidentiality. I don't think that's crazy.
Hey, I agree with you. MD. Oh, by the way, back in December of 2023, we had this headline here. More than 40,000 people were killed in gun violence in 2023. That was by December, early December 2023. That's crazy. All right, so I want to get to this next video here. I think it'll be interesting. Got to hear what the panel thinks. You should have probably heard of it. If you didn't, it's a very interesting watch. This is a preacher, and he has a lot to say about MAGA.
Some of you bring politics into the church. You think that politics is spiritual stuff. Politics is of this world. You think it's your duty to be political about this, that, and the other. No, your duty is to serve the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, body, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Don't be talking to me about my spiritual responsibility to vote.
You just heard from Pastor Lauren Livingston from the Central Church of God in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's actually an evangelical pastor who has a bone to pick with the former president, Donald Trump, and MAGA evangelicals.
This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our founding father documents. Yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard. to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this. God bless the USA Bible, and it's just very important and very important to me. I want to have a lot of people have it. You have to have it for your heart, for your soul. Many of you have never read them and don't know the liberties and rights you have as Americans and how you are being threatened to lose those rights. It's happening all the time. It's a very sad thing that's going on in our country, but we're going to get it turned around. Religion and Christianity are the biggest things missing from this country, and I truly believe that we need to bring them back, and we have to bring them back fast. I think it's one of the biggest problems we have. That's why our country is going haywire. We've lost religion in our country.
I don't have a spiritual responsibility to vote. I have a civic privilege. Don't be telling me that voting is spiritual. See, that's what happens when you don't read and pray. When you don't read and pray, you say, wow, there's a Bible out now that includes the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Isn't that wonderful? No, it's disgusting. It's blasphemous. It's a ploy. Are you kidding me? Some of you are so encouraged by that. Let me tell you something. The gospel is not an American gospel. It is the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. But Pastor, I bought the Bible. Really? You're telling me that you're encouraged because someone took a government, U.S. Constitution, a document that says we are of the people, by the people, and for the people, the people, the people, the people. And you have put it right beside the Word of God, which is eternal, unchanging, which says of Him, by Him, through Him, to Him, from Him are all things. And you're going to put those together and be happy about it? God forbid. Now, you can get mad if you want to, but I'm going to tell you something. If you glory in that kind of thing, you don't have a prayer life. If you glory in that kind of mess, political mess, you do not know what the Word of God says. Are you going to tell me that it's okay to stick a Bill of Rights, our rights, American, just Americans, in God's holy Word, and turn this whole thing into an American Bible with an American gospel? Oh, some of you are really upset with me right now. But I'm here to tell you that is a cheap ploy. The world is adept at showing you things on the news that upset you, that bring stuff to the surface, that create division and animosity. That's their job. It's the devil's job. They're doing the devil's job. They can't tell the truth because they are not of the truth. And when you watch it and you say, my, look at that. I didn't know that. Well, you haven't heard the whole truth. They get stirred up about what's being done to them and what's happening in politics.
Yeah, I loved what he said there.
Yeah.
I personally loved it because it's so true. You're not getting the full truth. It rips relationships, people, Americans apart. I know that he's trying to make a point about not making religion and the Bible specifically an American thing, which I also agree with. But yeah, I thought what he said there was pretty powerful.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if he's referring to the culture wars, but the mainstream press, which includes Fox News, do you use the culture wars to divide us, right? So MSNBC says this, Fox News says that, but on all economic issues, they both agree we shouldn't get anything, only the rich should get stuff. So if that's what he's referring to, I agree with him on that too. But guys, look, if we're back to the religious perspective, I mean, what a charlatan Donald Trump is. We were showing you the clip on next to Anna earlier when he couldn't figure out how to hold the Bible outside the church. There it is. And then he held it down upside down. Like, look at him. He's like, what is this thing? Well, how do I hold it? He can't figure it out. Nobody holds a Bible like that. What is that? What is that? Okay, I'm not even Christian, and I know nobody does that.
Bible.
It's a Bible. Yeah, we know it's a Bible. You
No,
God.
the guy's like, is that your Bible? He's like, it's a Bible.
Totally.
So good.
And then you know all the classics, the 2 Corinthians, walk into a bar, and then, I mean, that's the part we like, right? He asked at Liberty University. That's the part we like. What part of the Bible is your favorite Bible part? When he asked in an interview, he's like, all parts. He's never read it. He's never read it. And then not only is selling a Bible that's like filled with other stuff in it, as this guy's point, then he's selling golden sneakers. You know what he's going to do next? A golden calf, right? And MAGA, at least some big portion of them are going to be like, perfect, okay? Does it have a Trump logo? Is the calf making America great again? And that's what this brother's calling out. We could disagree with him on everything else, but he's saying, look, if you're an actual religious person, especially an evangelical Christian, right? You're supposed to care about God, and you're not supposed to follow false prophets who lead you down a path of their vainglory and their pride rather than actually helping your fellow neighbor.
It's only $59.99, and just for that, you get a copy of the Constitution, a copy of the Bill of Rights, a copy of the Pledge of Allegiance, and the Declaration of Independence, as well as the Bible, I guess. Just a reminder, this is the man who once said this.
2 Corinthians 3:17, that's the whole ball game. Where the Spirit of the Lord, right? Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty.
Jonah, can you please remind me what is 2 Corinthians?
Well, actually, my favorite example of this, when he was asked what his favorite Bible verse was, he was like, well, first of all, there's so many. I couldn't pick just one.
So many
and then
Bible
he
verses.
settled on an eye for an eye.
You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book. And you said, I think last night in Iowa, some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what 1 or 2 of your most favorite Bible verses are and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal. So I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into.
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that you like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal. I think it's just an incredible, the whole Bible is an incredible, I joke, very much so. They always hold up the Art of the Deal. I say my second favorite book of all time. But I just think the Bible is just something very special.
All right. All right, there we go.
Hey, Venkat, hold on real quick. I was in the middle of watching TV with the missus, so I'm gonna run after I talk. I'm gonna say something on this.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Good.
All right. So real quick, one of the guys mentioned this, and I'm so glad he talked about the golden calf. You're not familiar with the golden calf. When Moses went up to get the law, basically the people rebelled and they couldn't wait long enough, so they created this golden calf to start worshiping it like it was God. And so what we're seeing now is that in coming to light right now, they're worshiping Donald Trump. I think it was on Tape Is Politics last week, or it could have been on God and Government, where we were talking about the reason of the 501c3. This is the exact reason for the 501c3. It was to not allow people to be influenced by their religious leaders, because as you guys see by the text that I show you guys, religious people are crazy. They do whatever their leaders tell them to do. So this guy that's preaching, what I agree with what he's saying. I think black people should vote. Shout out to Solar and MD. Because that is literally the only power you have to exact any type of change. You're not going to get it by yourself because there is no imaginary black land. But we can get into that on another episode. But this, you gotta keep the religion out of the church. But it's so funny. When I used to go to church 3 years ago, whenever you always knew it was election time coming up, because Pastor would always tell us, oh yeah, we got such and such representative in the house today. I'm like, well, nigga, I haven't seen you. I haven't seen you in a whole calendar year. You haven't handed out food. I'm the one handing out food on Saturdays. You haven't shook anybody's hands, but now when it comes time for the vote, now you're in the building. Religion is completely bastardized. That's why the Bible says, "A word have I hid in my heart that I may not sin against you." Him holding up that Bible means absolutely nothing.
Sure.
He could throw that in the trash can along with his career, and it'll be just the same because it means absolutely nothing. I agree with that guy that's preaching, though. Don't necessarily agree with everything he says about the civic duty and stuff like that. Yes, you do need to keep church and church separation of church and state. I think that was God and government. Yeah, that was God and government. You do need to keep those two things separate because people fall for these cult. Man, I'm telling y'all, man, I've been watching so many videos about like cult leaders and stuff like that and how they influence the minds of these people. Imagine if you allow religion to get into politics, how somebody that's a smooth talker like Trump can now start playing. All he has to do is hold up a Bible. He is literally selling a Bible for $60. The U.S. Christian version ain't no such thing. Like he's literally selling the Bible for $60, and people are allowing that because all you got to do is say God, and everybody will rah and wave the pom poms for you. That doesn't work for me, brother. But I'm listening. I'm just I had to interrupt the date, man. So man, good to see you though. So I ain't seen you in a minute, man. I'm glad you finally came back. He probably stepped away for a minute, but yeah, man, I'll be listening. I'll be listening in the background, man. I had to got to go back and continue my date.
All right, thank you, Trevor. MD, what did you think about the video?
Yeah, man. Yeah. This was right on topic, man. I wish I would have had this clip for the episode that Trevor was talking about separation of church and state. This is the epitome of separation of church and state in regards to what we discussed in terms of apostolic governance versus civil governance. This is a perfect example, and this pastor displayed it 100% on time. This is the main reason why the MAGA maniacs exist. I don't care how you try to slice it, how you try to explain it away. The very foundation of the MAGA maniacs as it stands today is based in the evangelical right. You can't get around it. I don't care who you are individually. The base say what you are. And the base say that they evangelical, Christian, nationalist, conservative. That's what they are. And as a politician, they gonna kowtow to that base, whether you like it or not. I don't care if you're a Hindu, a Muslim, an atheist. I don't care. The base will and always will be the evangelical right Christian national. And this is the issue that is the very foundation of the derision when it comes to the MAGA maniacs and everybody else. That's including people on the left and the right that understand the rule of law and how governance is to take place. You know what I'm saying? So again, this populist attitude that us as Americans supposed to be all one type of person is just false. And it's sad that you got people from a societal aspect that's on the opposite spectrum of what that is, trying to kowtow to this and trying to generalize it and explain it. No, you can't explain it. Ain't no explanation to be had. This is what the base of not the Republican Party, because then I would be generalizing, because that's not the case. But the base of the MAGA maniacs persists based on the opposition of what this pastor just said. That's just what it is, folks. It's a populist attitude. Nowhere in the history of America have we ever had a populist attitude. It's just not the case. Populist meaning this ultra nationalistic, we all should move in one facet when it comes to the sovereignty of the nation in all it ain't never worked like that, and it never will, because again, we're based upon a system. That system does not work nationally. It's meant to be global. You know what I'm saying? And why other people don't understand that, I don't know. You got positives, you got negatives in anything. The negative, in terms of what you think should be, will never be, because it's almost like autophagy. It's self-eating. You want to become a disease within America, and for whatever I can do, I ain't gonna let it happen. You know what I'm saying? So in the aspect of separating church, separating state, just like Thomas Jefferson said, that's the reason behind it, and this gentleman just explained it eloquently. I couldn't say it any better myself.
All right, thank you, MD. Ricardo, what did you think about the pastor here from North Carolina?
Yeah, there's certain parts to the segment that he did that I agree, and there's certain parts that I did with. But for the majority of the parts that he stated, I gotta give him a post, because it's like I don't know. It's funny to me when you tie religion and politics together, it's always something that there's going to be some kind of disagreement, because not everything that you hear in politics go hand in hand with religion. That's just how it's always been, and there's the reason why we have separation of state and church. Just for whatever, will always be a conflict of interest. With that being stated, the evangelicals, and I'm not gonna let up off them, because you know my rant and rage with them has been extensive since the start of the show. It's nothing new if y'all just joining in. I have a love-hate relationship. No, in fact, I'm a liar. I have a hate relationship with the evangelicals, and the reason being is because sensical way of thinking and doing, and I guess it's the notion of them being tied with politics and the white supremacy and all of that mixed up in the national, all of that mixed in one, created what we now see in this, God he knows, I don't even know what to call him anymore, babbling fool named Donald Trump. And when you even see him holding the Bible, even not even the one where he was in front of the Washington church, it's this one where he was holding the brown Bible again. It's like, what is with him holding the Bible? It just looks so awkward and weird to me. Can you hold the Bible correctly? That's when you know somebody who doesn't go to church, has nothing to do with religion, has no affiliation to religion at all, holds something and it looks awkward. Like that to me is just odd. The second thing is, why are you selling Bibles for $60, sir? Why? I could go to Dollar Tree and get one for $1. But again, like Trevor said, it's the fact that you could put Christianity and whatchamacallit in something, and they just sell it to the masses. The masses eat it up like morons that they are. It's a Bible. I mean, come on. Why are you profiting off? But I know better. Why are you profiting off something that is probably the most read literature? Would we call it that? The most read literature
in the world history, yeah.
In history, you're going to profit off that. Can you be any more shameful of yourself? Like, really, this is what we're doing? No. So we're definitely heading to the golden calf next. It seems to me that he can't do nothing wrong in these people's eyes. Like, wake up. So and then the pastor, him saying well, I don't know if he's a pastor or a reverend, saying what did he say? Something to it's a privilege, something like that. I think that's what he said in the video.
Yeah. It's a civic privilege.
What the hell is that supposed to mean? MD, do you even know what that means? What is a civic privilege? Like
it's exactly what it says. It's a civic privilege, meaning you have the right to vote, but you don't have to. It's a privilege. It's a privilege. It's a privilege in terms of your access as a regulated United States citizen, because we all know if you get arrested for various crimes, that privilege can be taken away.
Because the way he said in that context, so in that case, if I choose not to do my taxes, then I should be arrested as well, because that's also a civic privilege. You could choose not to do your taxes.
You can look at it that way. Hell, that's how I look at it. To be honest,
Don't be Wesley Snipes.
No, but that's coming into fruition. MD, I'm not sure if you heard about this week where put into legislation that he wants to pass a law that states if you do not do your taxes, he's going to charge you $500,000 or something to that effect, and you're gonna it's gonna be a civil what you call it. It's something along that lines, but the election is there, and it's Biden that's wanting to pass that, and I'm saying to myself, well, that's interesting. So the fact that he
I saw that. It also say that it comes with certain
stipulations,
certain tax privilege, certain tax deductions and privileges too. So I mean, I have to look deeper into it, but I know what you're talking
we
about.
both do, but I just find it would be Biden that but but digress. But that's the whole thing with those civic privilege. It's like, really, so we need an explanation I need clarification as for what deals, because if it's your civic duty to vote and you choose not to vote but then complain after, then that's one thing. But then when you say it's a privilege, that's a whole, the way he said it in the context of how he said it in a religion tone, that made me go, okay, what? But yeah, all in all, just to bring it back, I just find it interesting that, these religious people that are in church, who are doing sermons, they're doing all of this. I implore them, and I will say this again, there's one thing to do preaching and be on that platform and say all of this about religion and whatnot, but call out the biasness and whatnot when it comes to the individual that is running. We're not going to just do this whole thing that appeases you in the moment, or that appeases the context of again, what we spoke about earlier about like the minority thinking, or the white privilege, not the white privilege, but the white supremacy people thinking, oh my God, the white majority is falling out. And this has always been my issue with this whole religion and politics thing and going hand in hand. It's like they put on blindfolds when it comes to certain people. No, I'm gonna call you out exactly how the Bible says you're supposed to be called out for, and don't because it's Donald Trump. Do it for everybody across the board. And it's the same thing when they come to church, like Trevor says, in the election cycle, and they shook and jive and they do this whole fake praying. And no, we're not gonna do that. It's kind of like lame. And it's kind of like overdone at this point. But if you're gonna come to church and just do it only for like the first or the last Sunday of the cycle, and then think that's all that it's good and dandy to get votes, that's not it, people. That's not it. So it's the same thing with this preacher going on and on. Like I said, there's some things I agree with him in the video about, and then there's certain things I was like, what? No. But in politics and religion don't work. They never should. There should be a separation of state and church, and I've always stood by that. But when it comes to Donald Trump, it seems like anything goes, and we're rewarding bad behavior. And again, no religious person is calling out the fact that he's selling the Bible for $60. But I digress. This is America, capitalism rule, and it's always going to be the case. So, rah 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 with the pom poms, like Mr. Straight Talk says.
Hey, by the way, Ricardo, I was driving home the other day from work, and there were some guys on the side of the road, and they were giving out Bibles for free. So, I mean, $60, that's a hell of a...
Right.
I don't know.
That would have been a better propaganda if he was giving out the Bible for free and it was golden. But nah, he ain't going to do that. That's not Donald Trump's mantra of doing things. He has to make money off every damn thing.
I would worry about buying a Bible from Donald Trump, because then would some of the pages be missing, or like some of the words in the text be off or something like that? Because he does everything as cheap as hell, cheap as he can get it. So I wouldn't trust anything from Donald Trump. Trevor did mention here DeSantis is going against Title IX. MD, you heard anything about this?
No, I haven't. Let me look it up real quick. Hold on.
But yeah, you definitely.
Yeah, Solar, what did you think about the preacher, what he had to say about MAGA, Trump, and this whole Bible selling catastrophe. Solar party not available at the moment. Okay. All right. So let's move on then. We're going to go to session, lame duck session, and we have some stuff we need to cover in the lame duck session this week. Wild stuff, unbelievable stuff. Let's get right to that.
First things first, in this lame duck session.
For the United Nations General Assembly to share the extraordinary progress we've made. In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough.
I started having second thoughts almost the moment I sat down on the plane.
Lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Turn them off. Let's go. Ready? Turn
We go back a long way. She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
So I changed my return flight and flew back on the first available flight I could take.
I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced.
I'm tired of being quiet.
I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
With great power comes great responsibility.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones. You see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? These lights. You want to see a bird graveyard? You just go. Take a look. A bird graveyard? Go under a windmill someday. You'll see more birds than you've ever seen ever in your life.
Here's a question tonight. Did Tim Scott just become the VP favorite for Donald Trump? Well, that's because another contender, Kristi Noem, just ticked off quite a lot of Americans.
All right, look, here's the backstory. South Dakota governor is releasing a new book, you may have heard, and The Guardian got its hands on a copy. And the outlet is now flagging a section in which she describes killing her puppy, a puppy named Cricket.
Honestly, the easiest way to describe this is just, frankly, to read the main part of the article to you. It says, Cricket was a wire hair pointer about 14 months old, she says, adding that the dog, a female, had an aggressive personality and needed to be trained to be used for hunting pheasant.
Now, she includes her story about this ill-fated Cricket, by the way, and she says to illustrate her willingness in politics as well as in South Dakota life, apparently, to do anything difficult, messy, and ugly if it simply needs to be done. By taking Cricket on a pheasant hunt with older dogs, Noem says, she hoped to calm the young dog down and begin to teach her how to behave.
Now, unfortunately, Cricket ruined the hunt, she says, going, quote, out of her mind with excitement, chasing all those birds and having the time of her life. Noem describes calling Cricket, then using an electronic collar to attempt to bring her under control. Nothing worked. Then, on the way home after the hunt, as Noem stopped to talk to a local family, Cricket escaped Noem's truck and then attacked that family's chickens. Quote, grabbing one chicken at a time, crunching it to death with one bite, then dropping it to attack another.
Now, Cricket, the untrainable dog, Noem writes, behaved like, quote, a trained assassin. Now, when Noem finally grabbed Cricket, she says, the dog whipped around to bite me. Then, as the chicken's owner wept, this is real, everyone, Noem repeatedly apologized, wrote the shocked family a check, quote, for the price they asked and helped them dispose of the carcasses littering the scene of the crime.
Now, through it all, Noam says that Cricket was the picture of pure joy. I hated that dog, Noam writes, adding that Cricket had proved herself, quote, to be untrainable, dangerous to anyone that she came into contact with, and less than worthless as a hunting dog.
At that moment, Noam says, I realized I had to put her down. Noam, who also represents her state in Congress for 8 years, got her gun, then led Cricket to a gravel pit. Here's what she writes. It was not a pleasant job, she writes, but it had to be done. And after it was over, I realized another unpleasant job needed to be done. Incredibly, the tale of slaughter is actually not finished at this point.
Her family, she writes, also owned a male goat. Now, the male goat was nasty and mean because it had not been castrated. Furthermore, the goat smelled disgusting, musty, and rancid, as I guess goats would.
It's a goat, but okay.
But that's another story, because it and it loved to chase Noam's children, knocking them down and ruining their clothes.
So she, okay. So she decided
this is real.
This is real. So she decided to kill the unnamed goat the same way she had just killed Cricket the dog, but thought she dragged him to. But though she dragged him to a gravel pit, the goat jumped as she shot and therefore survived the wound. Now, this is a page turner. So Noam says she went back to her truck, retrieved another shell, then, quote, hurried back to the gravel pit and put him down. Now, at that point, she writes, she realized a construction crew had watched her kill both animals, and the startled workers quickly got back to work, she writes, only for a school bus to arrive and drop off Noam's children. She writes, Kennedy looked around confused, Noam writes of her daughter, who asked, hey, where's Cricket?
That's pretty awful. As someone who lost a dog.
But she wrote this in her book.
As a child, honestly, it's really traumatic. And if you're thinking, wait, there's no way that this could possibly be true. Well, Noam defended the scenes in that book in a statement. She says she loves animals, but tough decisions happen all the time on a farm. In fact, she says they recently put down 3 horses.
Well, joining us now is dog trainer Zach George, host of Zach George's Dog Training Revolution. Listen, I wonder from your perspective, when you hear that this 14-month-old wire-haired pointer, beautiful dogs, by the way, was out of her mind with excitement, chasing birds on a hunt, attacking chickens, I wonder what you made of that.
This is an astonishing story, to say the least. The behavior described here is very typical adolescent behavior out of a dog that's been selectively bred to have endless stamina and endurance. And it really speaks to the fact that the general public is deeply confused about dog behavior and how to treat them. That's something we advocate for a lot on my social media to try and help educate the public around modern humane treatment of dogs.
And she says that she put the dog around other older dogs in a hunting setting to teach her how to behave. Mm-hmm. She talks about using an electronic collar, but then at the same time, she calls the dog untrainable. I mean, when you hear that, I mean, do you get the sense that she really tried her level best to actually train this dog?
I don't know what her personal best would be, but yeah, there are many more appropriate ways to train dogs than that, especially with electric collars and aversive methods like this that rely on pain, fear, and intimidation. Those are strongly correlated with increased aggression in dogs. Now, many members of the public don't realize that. That's one of the big problems, that collars like electric collars and prong collars and choke chains are used aggressively to suppress behavior. But one of the things we're trying to raise awareness about is the fact that there are so many side effects, and there's nothing that can't be trained with positive reinforcement training. And the good thing about positive reinforcement training and responsible management of the dog's environment, which was also lacking in this case, this really is what people need, because it doesn't have the side effects. This is what more people need to be aware of.
I cannot believe that this is actually an anecdote that she thought reflected well on her.
I mean, watching everyone's faces while that was on, I mean, everyone's blood is boiling. I am one of these people that not only loves animals and has always had pets, but just prefers them to people. We don't deserve them. That she thought that was a good idea. I mean, there's a special circle of hell that's reserved for people who mistreat animals. It's a real window into it. And, on a political basis, there's not a whole lot that keeps us all together. In fact, there's really nothing. Like, most of America can't agree that today is Friday. Pets and animals, one of them. I mean, I looked up the numbers. 86 million households, that's 2 out of every 3, have a dog or a cat. There are enough dogs in America that beat Argentina, that beat Thailand. Cats, if they were our own nation, would beat, like, Bolivia. And I think they want to be their own nation. What makes her think that this is a good idea? And what I love about this, and I'll wrap, is that Republicans love to yell at people like me and Democrats that we don't get America. We're living in a bubble. We like our kale, we like our DEI, we like all these things that we just don't get what goes on between the coasts. What America is she living in where people think that it's a good idea to talk about, to do what she did, just walk around killing goats because they smell, as if goats don't smell, and to kill puppies because they bother her? This is someone who thinks they're in touch, and what's most pathetic about this is that Donald Trump won't care. You know why? Donald Trump's the only president in American history, from what I could tell, that has never owned a pet.
That is hard to swallow is the way she flippantly mentions her child showing up and finding the dog gone. It's wild. That's why I have a little bit of childhood trauma in that vein. And if you have a kid, I would never do that to my child. It's just
you got to wonder why she put that in there. If there's 10 other things that she thought she would get this out there.
Yes.
Like she's shooting elephants with Don Jr. or something.
Yeah. No, I think there's an element here where she thought this made her look masculine. I've seen women who are on the Republican side pick up guns, talk about hunting more than they do. Okay, I grew up in Southern West Virginia. I'm comfortable around those things, but they overstate it or they overdo it as a way to sort of take up that banner of masculinity. And she doesn't think it's going to work against her, by the way.
There's a difference between hunting and execution. This, to me, is a character flaw.
All right. There she is. Put the spotlight on number 36, trash bag human of the week. We're talking about the lame duck, Kristi Noem. We'll go with Ricardo. Ricardo, what do we think here about good old Kristi?
Where do I begin? So, if anyone knows this country quite well, and you could do whatever you want to do, you could be lewd and lascivious and do all of this stuff and be caught doing certain things, but the one covenant rule I was always taught is never you ever harm an animal and think you're going to get away with it and even speak about doing so. Miss Noem was given the opportunity to clean up this whole thing because this started from last week, and she was given the opportunity to fix it because the optics of this whole thing just was from the get-go was terrible. And they asked her again, and she doubled down and said, yes, I did it. Listen to me, ma'am. You talk about killing puppies. You talk about killing a puppy, and you talked about killing a goat. Ma'am, what are you doing? You thought this was going to resonate with people and get you votes and to get you the VP job that you're vying for from Donald Trump? He wants nothing to do with you now. He's looking at you like, who is this woman? I don't know her. But he's probably gonna be like Mariah Carey. I still don't know her. What are you doing? What are we doing?
I don't know her.
I still don't know her. What are you doing, ma'am? No, Miss Noem, what are you doing? This is what you do. This to try to get votes. You thought this was gonna get. This is the first time in a long time that I've noticed everybody across the aisle agreed all at once. It's a hell no. What do you talk about shooting a dog? Really, ma'am? That you couldn't have brought it to a shelter or something. Let them, and it sounds bad for me saying it. Let them get rid of the dog for you. You decided to shoot a dog and wrote it in an biographical book at that. I feel like singing, those commercials where it's like, in the arms of an angel. Fly with the dog, the sad puppy looking sad with the tears and wanting that. This is what you're doing, ma'am. This is what we're doing. It's a hell no. She's worse than a human scumbag. She's just deplorable. It's a no, a hard pass no. No, ma'am. I might not love dogs, I might not love animals, but the optics of what you described in the book is a hard pass no. Nobody, and not even the Republicans or the Democrats, would even give you a flying grade pass of, oh, we're gonna just she might have said it in the context of trying to. None of them wanted to come to your defense, ma'am. That's to show you how bad the optics of this is for you. Not even Donald Trump is opening his mouth to say anything right now because he knows damn well not to. This is a hard pass no. So you really did deserve the lame duck of the week. You're the human trash bag of the week. In fact, you're going to be there for a very long time. So kiss that VP job goodbye that you were trying so hard to impress your so-called MAGA leader with. He wants nothing to do with you now, ma'am. So with that being stated, you deserve it. You are a deplorable, despicable human being for even saying it out loud. It should have been kitchen table talk, but you decided to say it out to the entire general population to hear. We heard it. We're disgusted. We want nothing to do with you. So, sayonara.
So what did Donald Trump say about this?
Saudi Arabia and Russia.
Not a damn thing. He knows damn well to be quiet and not open his mouth to say a damn thing about this.
All right, MD, what do you got here?
Yeah, man. But this story, man, I'm reminded when I was in school, we read the classic novel Old Yeller, and also we watched the film adaptation. I don't know if y'all remember Old Yeller, but you had Travis. Travis was the main person, and he loved Old Yeller. You know what I'm saying? But one day, Old Yeller had to defend the family against a wolf. And he suffered. It wasn't I guess you could call it a fatal bite because he contracted rabies. So Travis had to, unfortunately, take Old Yeller out to the pasture and shoot him, and it devastated him. But he had hope because Old Yeller had puppies with one of the neighbor's dogs, and he saw a future for Old Yeller. This ain't that situation, folks. It just ain't. Again, I come from the South. I was in places in my younger days when I was on farms and stuff like that where I saw animals being killed. You know what I'm saying? It ain't nothing new to that type of person. Let's just say she shot the puppy with a shotgun. Hey, at the end of the day, it ain't. I can't explain none of that away. I just can't do it. But here's the unfortunate situation. The MAGA maniacs don't give a damn, and they're not gonna give a damn.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
Exactly. So again, Peter is a mortal enemy to the MAGA maniacs. They don't give a damn about no animals. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate. It is what it is. If that's the case, if Trump get elected, he should nominate Mike Vick for Secretary of State. If that's the case,
Mike Vick. Oh God.
We nominate Mike Vick for Secretary of State. He on the cabinet. If she can get on, Mike Vick can get on.
Hey.
And that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it was a dumb thing to say, but at the end of the day, I understand what she's doing because she's trying to identify with the MAGA maniac. That's her job. And some might say that she did just that by telling the story. Talk about being around goats and dogs and shooting them, and the MAGA maniacs, they can identify with that.
No, MD, but shooting them though, like you thought.
Hey man, you'll be surprised, bro.
That ain't it.
You'll be surprised, man. Hey, let me take you around where I come from. You'll be surprised, bro.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
You'll be surprised, man. I'm just being honest. Here's one story. So back in the day, where I live currently now, that's where my family from. It didn't used to be gentrified like it is now. It was the country, and neighbors had cows and stuff. It's called a boat gun. Basically, it's almost like a nail gun, but it's not a nail gun. It's a boat gun. It shoot like big ass boat, basically, and that's what you shoot the cow in the head with to kill them instantly. No need. They got plenty of meat. No need. Just do the shit for fun. So I've seen stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? So again, go to the backwoods. You'll be surprised at what you see.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
But yeah, MD. But we know
country folks love animal mutilation. That's what they do.
We know they do, MD, but you don't talk about it. That's like kitchen table talk. There's certain things you don't discuss out in public. You don't brag about like stuff like that. I mean, come on, man. This is you vying for the VP spot. You think anybody's gonna go, oh, we're gonna give it to her now because she talked about shooting a puppy in the face? What are you doing? That ain't it. That's just it's bad optics. Anybody who's smart enough to know, even if I don't like dogs, I don't like goats, I don't like cows, I don't like pigs or whatever, I am not gonna go out and then brag about, oh, I shot the dog because the dog was an idiot. Like, no, who does that? It's a no.
Magamaniac. A magamaniac will do it.
Good Lord, she was so vile the way she said. And the fact that she doubled down, MD, is the part that got me so upset. Is the fact that they gave her the opportunity to say, all right, we're going to give you the opportunity, ma'am, to clean up what you said. Maybe we took it out of context. She's like, hell no. I shot that idiot dog in the face. And I shot the damn goat because the damn goat reeked and smelled of and thing. And by the way, I killed 3 horses last week. What are you doing, ma'am? What do you think that's gonna resonate with half the country? Like really?
Okay. All right. Let me be totally transparent. When I was a kid, I used to have a BB gun. We used to go out in the back and we used to shoot squirrels and birds that was perching. And we would laugh as they eyeball pop out the head. We would do stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So am I a bad person?
Well, Jeffrey Dahmer did the same thing when he was a kid.
He sure was a nice person, wasn't he?
I mean, a lot of people said he was really nice, except for the other part. But when you met him, he was nice. So. But I get what you're saying, MD. I get what you're saying. She's a big grown-ass woman. You were younger and a kid. There's a big difference there. As you age, you're supposed to gain knowledge. You're supposed to have growth. You're supposed to understand things better. She don't seem to. She's by her divulging this information, she is like completely like, hey, I don't see nothing wrong. Hey, you shot a puppy for being a puppy. What puppy doesn't run around?
12 gauge shotgun.
Exactly. This puppy is running around being a puppy. He's like excited and going all over the place and messing with stuff. That's what a puppy does. It's full of energy. It's exciting about everything in the world. It doesn't see any danger. It just wants to play. She killed the puppy for being a puppy. She killed a goat for being a goat, smelling. That's what the goat is. Yeah, but we went to a petting zoo. The goat's there. I mean, the aroma, that's what the goat is. This is crazy, man. This woman is like special. What Republican women, what is the deal, yo? Because every time the Republican Party, Trump, puts somebody in the forefront, the rebuttal of Joe Biden, that lady with her nutty presentation, like every female, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert, all these female Republicans are super nuts. There's like no logic.
And I can see Russia from my house.
No, Lord. I mean, it's been going on for a while. My goodness.
You can find pictures of all of them with an AR-15 in their hand. All of them.
Yeah, and they think they look cool doing it.
Didn't Boebert point a gun at her husband one time?
Oh yeah.
Yes, she did.
Oh my God.
I believe she did. That's what everybody was talking about too.
Well, I guess her ex-husband now. But.
I mean, they got a litany of problems.
The 18-year-old son of Congresswoman Lauren Boebert now facing charges in a string of property thefts and vehicle trespasses. Tyler Boebert is scheduled to appear in court later this afternoon. The Rifle Police Department posted Tyler Boebert was arrested yesterday afternoon and now faces 5 felony counts. He's accused of criminal possession of ID documents, all linked to a string of trespassing in vehicles and property thefts. Boebert faces a total of 22 possible charges, including a number of misdemeanors.
Has been arrested and charged with nearly 24 crimes, including multiple felonies.
The 18-year-old is accused of breaking into vehicles and then stealing wallets. Fox 31's Ashley Michaels is live in studio tonight with the very latest. Ashley.
Well, police arrested Tyler Boebert yesterday. He's already been in court and released, but he's still facing some very serious charges. Now, according to arrest documents, he's accused of playing a role in breaking into at least 4 vehicles in the Rifle area, then using stolen debit cards. The purchases were mostly at gas stations for things like fuel, snacks, even a blue Gatorade. There was also a $50 charge at McDonald's and a charge for more than $700 at an online clothing shop that got flagged and declined. Now, we're told this happened when he was with a group of friends, so it's unclear exactly who did what in this string of crimes. But police identified Tyler using security cameras from the gas stations. You can see it here in this photo. It's tough to see, but he was wearing a hoodie that said Shooter's Grill on it. That's the restaurant his mom, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, used to own. Now, in a statement, she said in part, "I love my son, who's been through some very difficult public challenges that he didn't ask for. Breaks my heart to see my child struggling, and that he should be held accountable for poor decisions just like any other citizen." Now, this is the latest in a string of legal trouble for the Boebert family. Recently, there were accusations of a physical fight between the Congresswoman and her ex-husband. She did end up filing a temporary restraining order against him. Now, she has said that is one of the big reasons why she moved from the Western Slope to Windsor, Colorado instead, and why she is currently running for Colorado's 4th congressional district instead of CD3, which is the seat that she currently holds. Ashley Michaels, Fox 31.
All right, Ashley, thank you very much.
Just a model citizen, aren't they? Just a great model American citizens.
Amazing. Unbelievable. Oh, Lord. All right. So we're about to wrap up the show, and we're going to do final sign-offs. But before that, we're going to do our nightcap video. And after that, then we'll do our final sign-offs. So let's go ahead and go into the nightcap video for this week.
Joe Manchin sold our futures and you've gotten rich doing it. You sick fuck. How dare you? You sold our futures. I'm not going to sit down. You receive more funding than any other senator. You made millions out of your position. Joe Manchin sold our futures and you've gotten rich doing it. You sick How dare you? You sold our futures. How dare you? You sold our futures.
Joe Manchin is a guy who destroyed 85% of the Democratic agenda. He kept all of the corporate parts because he gets paid by those corporate donors. He destroyed paid family leave, higher minimum wage, lower drug prices, every single thing that he could have destroyed, he did. Anything that would have helped you. So the least he can do is listen to a voter telling him to fuck off, which he most richly deserves. And instead, what do? How dare a regular American tell one of the elites that they are wrong, and they shove him and assault him. That guy should be arrested. And Manchin getting up like he's a tough guy. What are you going to do, tough guy? You're going to go run back to your yacht. Keep it real.
Well, I must tell you, the thing I fear the most in life is Joe Manchin coming at me. Ricardo, what do you think here about the nightcap video?
Man, I mean, he's showing his thuggish side. You know, he's trying to show the business thug spectacular side that he has. Listen, man, it's funny to see him react that way because usually, it's very, very base reactionary on Joe Manchin's side. I think he's leaving MD. He's not doing. He's not coming back because he knows he's not getting the votes or something along that lines. I think he just decided he's not coming back. But as a voter, if I vote for you, and you had the political agenda in my district or whatnot, and you didn't do half the things that you stated that you were going to do when you were elected, I have every right to say F you on camera in front of everybody, and you better sit there and take all of that diatribe that I'm giving you because it's the political agenda that you have. And again, when they have these donors and all these people that dilute and corrupt them as they get up there, because as you know, absolute power corrupts absolutely. You got to take it. It comes with the territory. It's kind of like you can't sit there and complain and go, oh my God, the voter just came up to me and swore at me and I was offended. Be real. These people have a reason to come up and be upset with you because they elected you, sir. You were very flip-floppy. I'll give you that. But I never for once thought you had the democratic agenda in your hands. You were always so wishy-washy to begin with. They needed him because he was the only pivotal vote sometimes, but even then he was very wishy-washy, flip-floppy all over the place. I just couldn't. It was too polarizing for me. So is that man in all fairness, justified in swearing at him? Absolutely. And it comes with any politician. Do they deserve it? Some of them do. But in that moment, the heat was intense, and he just needed to get it off his chest. He's probably never going to get that opportunity again to curse out Joe Manchin. So hey, Joe Manchin, you could have handled that a little bit better, but I get it. Your tough, thuggish side had to come out because you grew up in the hood. You don't have a yacht to go back to. No, I digress. You do. That was a joke. But yeah, just sit down, sir. You really didn't need to be doing all of that. It was a bit extra for me, and then the bodyguard doing the whole "I'm gonna push you out through the door." It's a bit much. Just sit there, take it with a grain of salt. Smile if you need to smile. Look at the Obamas and the what's his name what's his name again that ran with Obama. Can't remember his name.
Joe Biden?
No, not Joe Biden, from the Republican side.
You're talking about McCain?
No, Romney.
Oh, okay.
All of that brunt and all of that stuff when he went against the grain of the MAGA crowd. And listen, did he curse and do all of that, or up like you was gonna go punch somebody? Nah, he sat there and smiled. You could have done the same damn thing, but guess what? I digress, because you know what? Absolute money corrupts absolutely. And you just felt the need that no one should disrespect you, sir. But guess what? You disrespected those voters when you didn't do their agenda, and you did all that political corruptionness behind the scenes by taking on them bribes, which we know you did, and you were corrupted by all those donors as well. So do you deserve that big mega FU finger sign, middle finger? Absolutely. So sayonara, Manchin. Peace on out. We don't miss you. Just like that turtle crying, I'm not even going to do it to him. That's from Kentucky. See y'all later. I take the rest of the rest of y'all despicable crowds with you and be gone. Young people, start setting up. Let's get into Congress. Let's get into legislation. Let's rule, because these old heads, no offense to y'all, are really not doing that much. So it's time for new blood. Let's get it.
In politics, we got like literal villains here. The guy name is Joe Manchin, a rich guy, and his last name is Manchin. My God, you can't make this stuff up. So, MD, what do you think here about this video with Joe Manchin toughing it up?
Yeah, a person like Joe Manchin, he's the epitome of what I call government sanctioned capitalism. Like he's the epitome of it. Remember, Joe Manchin made all his money in the coal industry.
You sure?
And he single handedly killed green energy. You know what I'm saying? For a lot of the time. At the very least he spearheaded it, because he was taking money from the power industries that didn't want to convert to an alternative source of energy, because they didn't want to spend the money to do it. You know what I'm saying? So Joe Manchin said, "Hey, look, man, just pay me on the back end, and I'll make sure that we shut it down legislatively." You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what he did. All the while, the coal company that he has, he basically laid off everybody because everything automated now. There is no such thing as a coal industry in West Virginia no more because it's all ran by machine. You don't need no person to go in the shafts and dig like how it's dead. So he's single-handedly profiting like all the money and also killing any attempt to have any type of alternative. You know what I'm saying? That's your guy right there, Joe Manchin. That's what I call government-sanctioned capitalism. That's not free market capitalism. Because if it was free market, it'll be competition, i.e., alternative ways of creating energy. But hey, I digress with that. That's for all the people that want to say that what they see is capitalism when it's really not. You know what I'm saying? It's monopolies. It's corruption. So on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Joe Manchin. Yeah, and you're right. I had to think about it, Ricardo. He did say that he wasn't running for re-election. I mean, hell, because he done drained the last little drop of blood that he can. It's over with. He go back in his casket and go to sleep. You know what I'm saying?
Well, actually, Joe Manchin, he said he wasn't going to seek re-election, and then afterwards, he then said he was going to run for president. Then the poll numbers came in, and he's like, "Oh crap!" And then he dropped out of that.
Yes, he did. Very flip-floppy.
Yeah, because again, people like Joe Manchin, people like Mitch McConnell, a lot of these old heads, they find themselves between the rock and the hard place because they trying to be the shield for old GOP conservative fiscal policies on one end, but then they see the rise of the populist MAGA maniac neo-nationalists, and they sweating because they don't know which way to go. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of them really like to hell with it. I done made my money. I'm not even gonna attempt to try to be on one side or another. That's part of the reason. But with that, again, well, a place like West Virginia, I don't expect a place like West Virginia to flip merely based on the fact that West Virginia is so disenfranchised. They don't know if they're going up or down. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. But a lot of these other seats, I can easily see flipping blue easily.
But what about Georgia? But what about Georgia? What about Georgia? Do you see it flipping blue?
You talking about totally? I mean, hell, some people will say Georgia blue now. Some people would. I mean, me necessarily, I wouldn't say that based on the fact that I put it to you this way. Because of the mass or the sheer amount of numbers that we have in the metropolitan areas, it's overshadowing the rural areas. That's just what it is. Rural Georgia don't matter no more. It just don't. You know what I'm saying? You got millions and millions of people moving to places like Atlanta, Savannah, Columbus, all these metropolitan areas that are highly progressive. So, to be honest, I think put it this way, the governor race. If she was to run a third time, this time I think she would win. Talking about Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams, yeah.
I think the numbers are there for her now. So if she were to run, I don't think the governor is up until 2026. I could be wrong. I think it's 2026, the next race. But I think if she decides to run again, she'll win. Third time a charm.
You don't think
if that's what you mean by blue, huh?
But you don't think the fact that she's ran several times now, that people have heard her name and they haven't equated to a win, so people might be like, I don't want to vote for her because she'll just lose again, even though she may have the ability to win, like you say. Like sometimes it's like spoiled goods here, where you keep running. Like for instance, like people got tired of the Bushes. So we kept getting a Bush in office all the time. By the time Jeb Bush, the third Bush, trying to run for president, at a certain point they get tired of that name and that brand, and they're like, you know, even though he might have been the best choice, but looking back, he might have been the best choice in that 2016, but they're not going for it.
I don't think so, and here's why. Because
morning
bastion of Democratic advocacy in Georgia, I think she still got everybody behind her. That's just my opinion. Like she in Georgia, she is a superstar, a superstar. You hear me? So I'm saying, just off name alone, I see the opposite happening of what you said, Van Cat.
Okay.
Even I don't because I haven't heard anything about her running for the governorship again. Well, it's too early. But the fact that she did everything that she did in 2020, some people say her name solely on Georgia flipping blue. They say that was her. She did that. You know what I'm saying? So I think the superstardom is still there. I don't think nobody got tired of her like at all. Especially that she ain't in the limelight right now because she don't need to be. But in a lot of these other areas, right? In a lot of these other areas where these Republicans are retiring or not running, it's a strong possibility that you may see those seats flip because a lot of these people, they tired of the BS. Despite what some of these MAGA maniacs will say, they tired of seeing the division within the Republican Party. Don't nobody want to rock with that. Nobody want to rock with that at all. But we'll see how it goes.
So,
what do you think about Trump having to pay money for the gag order here?
the $9,000. I mean, it's bittersweet in the sense that it's really. I guess from the large scale of things, I don't think it's really that big a deal. It's just 9,000. I mean, hell, we talking about a person that was supposed to originally pay $454 million or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So $9,000 drop in the bucket. Me personally, I thought he should have at least spent 24 hours in jail.
Yeah, that would have been nice. That would have been good.
If me and you commit contempt in court, guess where we going, Van Cat? We going underneath the courthouse into the holding cell until the next day.
Yep.
For court. That's where we going.
Yep.
No questions asked.
So yeah. I mean, if we gonna say nobody's above the law, keep it that way.
Yep.
He was found in contempt. Throw his ass in jail for a day.
Well, period. It kind of hurts your sales on hawking $59.99 Bibles if you're not giving up.
Well, not for Trump. Not for Trump. It don't.
No.
Hell, if anything, to the MAGA maniacs, it'll boost sales.
Surprise, surprise.
That's the sad part.
Anytime this man goes through legal woes, his profit increase every single time. They'll find some way to sell it. Trust me.
Where you gonna sell next? Them Trojan cons? I mean, at this point, now is the best time to sell them. I don't know what to get into because this man is just like I don't get it. I just don't get it. But again, he has to pay these legal fees, and he's come up with every semantics he could think of, and they up from him, which is so sad. I would never understand.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. All right, Solar, are you still on? Yeah, Solar's gone, man.
Yeah. Solar done laid down, man. He in the fetal position.
All right, so let's give our final sign-offs. Let's start with Ricardo.
Yeah, man, it was a very interesting week in terms of politics. We haven't been able to touch on it, but there's a lot of stuff going on the U.S. campuses, particularly in University, where a lot of friction is going on due to the whole Palestinian, biasness of the media not showing enough coverage, and a lot of college students are now protesting, and it's a big, huge thing because now it's waking up a lot of people to think, okay, well, there's certainly a lot of media biases. So we've been saying this from the very get-go from TFP, that the biasness is there in the media, and there's a lot of coverage that they don't show, and everything is pro-Israel, Zionist point of views. That is not the case with the campuses, and there's a big uproar now because there's a lot of rioting, there's a lot of vandalism, there's a lot of things attributed to what's going on in the Middle East, and now
the college got Columbia surrounded right now. I just looked it up.
It's really intense. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. There's all stuff going on in LA. Well, so there's a significant amount of major colleges and universities that are going through a lot of rioting and whatnot. What I would implore everyone to do is keep a very big eye out on this. And Joe has a big issue on his hands if he's not careful. And I said this from the get-go, that this will be a culture clash, because it's one thing to support something, and then on the other hand, you're then saying, "Oh, I'm giving funding to Palestine and the Palestinians and whatnot," but you're not giving them, food or whatnot. So it's kind of like a conflict of interest, and that's the whole reason of the rioting. So it's not new to politics. It's not new to history. It's always been. But I would implore everyone to pay attention to this. It's going to be very significant in the coming weeks, because now threatening these protesters to not give them option to graduate, and there could be repercussions to this. So we'll see how this fans out. But huge weekend, great show, guys. MD come on and say his piece about this whole aspect of weaponry and whatnot. Hopefully we touch on it in another sense of the topic, because we didn't dive too much into it, but to it that we can get into. Great job, Venkat, and great to see you on your Solar and Straight Talk. It's great to see you on your twin. I don't know where you at. You were missing in action, and Jeremy Dumb, you're doing well. And see you next time.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. All right, MD, final sign off.
Yes, sir. Great show as always, man. And once again, sorry I was late. I got caught up at work, and I was literally in the middle of nowhere. I had to get out of Dodge as soon as possible. Yeah, pertinent topic today. I wish that we could have dived more into the caveats of gun ownership as a whole and what it means. Like I said, I implore all people, especially the black community, get strapped. Stop playing games. Get strapped and get trained. It is nothing to go to your local gun range, and most gun ranges that I know, they have instructors right there on site, usually for free, just to let you know what's what with the gun. I think that's the least that you could do, not only to protect your community, but to protect your own private homes. You know what I'm saying? I think that's very important, especially in the times that we're living in now. I understand that there's a stigma with carrying a weapon. As a matter of fact, the shooting that they had at the Walmart in Texas, when that happened, a lot of those witnesses that were in Walmart at the time, a lot of them were Latino, and they were saying over 50% of those people had weapons, just not on them. It was either in their car or at home, because there's a stigma involved with carrying a weapon, especially to minorities, especially the black people. Trust me, I know. You know what I'm saying? It's like you want to carry, but you don't want to get put in a situation. We got to get rid of that stigma, folks. We American citizens at the end of the day, whether you born or naturalized. You know what I'm saying? Take advantage of your rights in order not to protect yourself, but the people around you. That's important. To go with what Ricardo said, there's a lot of stuff going on right now with the college campuses. I was torn when I was hearing about a lot of this stuff over the weekend, because it was almost as if I looked at these people with having a sense of almost entitlement when it came to selective outrage, if that's what you want to say. Yes, I agree with what's going on right now in Gaza is horrendous, and it should be stopped. But at the same time, I'm looking at the entitlement or the advantageous behavior that some display on a lot of these college campuses in regard to selective outrage. One just down the street from Columbia University, you got the mass of homelessness going on in said city. Now, I have to take a step back and say, hey, I really can't say that based on the fact of the demographics of the school, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. And also, a lot of these young people were the same people that was organically protesting in 2020 during BLM. So I give you a pass. What I'm saying is this. We have to take a step back, focus. What can we do from an advocacy standpoint to make our voices heard? Some of that stuff that's going on down in Columbia right now, yeah, you might be with it, but they also got reports of them assaulting Jewish students. I ain't with that.
Back.
You know what I'm saying? I ain't with that at all.
Yep, back. Agree.
So again, selective outrage. Take a step back, breathe, and understand what the dynamics are in which you're trying to have your voices heard. And I should be back this Thursday. Hey man, I had a long weekend. I had a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on at the end of last week. I wasn't able to do my show. Hopefully I'll be back this Thursday. God, the government, we decided that it's going to be a bi-weekly show. That way we can have topics to discuss. Because I don't want to deflate having stuff to talk about. So we decided to do it bi-weekly. So we'll be back next Monday. But other than that, I should be here this Thursday night, 8:30. Talkbox Live. With that, I say peace.
All right, thank you, MD. Yeah, there's a lot of stories, a lot of things that I wanted to cover, but with the nature of the show, you're not gonna get to cover everything. I have so many backlog videos in the in the app here to go over. That's from the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even longer. But it's just a matter of finding the time to interject this morning, because speaking of the topic of this particular show, we're talking about weapons. A sword is a weapon, folks. And this morning, there was an attack with a sword in London. I'm going to just play this little short 1 minute clip here.
We're tracking a developing story out of London where a 13-year-old boy is dead after a man allegedly attacked him with a sword today. 4 other people, including 2 police officers, were hurt. Gloria is at the live desk now with what we know.
Good morning, Stephanie. Police arrested a 36-year-old man after he drove into a home in London and then attacked people with a sword. Now, the scary scene played out around 7 a.m. local time today. You can see the video right there. Police say they responded to a serious incident when the car plowed into a home. They got reports of multiple people stabbed. Witnesses say they saw officers taser the man and take him down with a sword in hand. A 13-year-old boy has died from his injuries. 4 others, including 2 police officers, were hurt in the attack. Their conditions are not known at this time. The motive is not clear, but police say this incident does not appear to be terror-related and that there is no threat to the community. So we'll have the very latest for you on this story.
Yeah, so they're attacking everybody with everything but the kitchen sink here. I mean, we're killing people with swords. I'm sure we got axes, hammers, blades, knives. It's all
So
out
with that
there.
being said, Van, so I'm glad you played that, because we know that there's a crisis going on in London right now with some of these black teens carrying the shanks, stabbing each other. So now Walmart should get rid of all cutlery items at Walmart. What's going on?
You're killing me, MD.
I'm just being honest. So when you can't equate the killing to the tool that's being used. That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's a little different though, right? Because I could go around with a DVD and shove it down people's throat, and they could die from that too. But I don't mean DVDs need to be regulated like that. A knife, a kitchen utensil was used and created for a specific thing. They chose to use it otherwise. But a gun was specifically designed, made, and manufactured for what it is. So those two are not the same. But I get what you're saying. I mean, yeah, it's a problem. But you can't kill a rapid amount of people stabby style. somebody could disable you. Got to get close to people. People have a fighting chance with a knife. You have no chance with those guns, and especially those high velocity assault rifles.
Well, you would be right if you come at me with a knife because I'm gonna pull out a gun. So yeah, you wouldn't have a fighting chance.
I knew that was coming from MD.
So in that regards, I agree.
Yeah. Trevor mentioned here in the chat, if we're available, he's doing a live on the main event Saturday. This is the Backlash this Saturday, WWE. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. Now, the question is, there is no wrestling reality tomorrow? That is the question here.
I believe
No, it's next week for the review, the Backlash review.
Okay. Oh, I got to tell Trevor real quick. I accidentally went live on his episode 50 of the Wrestling with Reality, the Sting episode. So he's got to re-upload that episode again, like, because I went live on it, so it's gone. You got to re-enter all that information again, Trevor. I'm sorry about that.
Hey, one last thing before you sign off, Venkat. I did look up what Trevor was talking about with the Title IX, and yes, just a couple hours ago, DeSantis did announce that he will not be enforcing Title IX in schools. He's not doing that at all.
Oh, okay.
We'll see how that's federal now.
Yeah.
So again, here you have another Republican that's not being subject to federal guidelines. Here's another one, just like Abbott with the border.
Yeah, he follows everything.
Here's another one with Title IX.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, to be damned with workers' rights and whatnot, with that whole thing he just wrote in, that bill he wrote in where he's taking away protections for outdoor workers. You can't get water breaks. You can't get shade from the sun. You just got to work through it. People going to be passing out, dying all over the goddamn place. This is ridiculous. I don't know that.
Your paycheck is death, is what you're saying, Venkat.
It's crazy. I said it before. I mean, that should automatically make those jobs have to pay more, because this is capitalism, right? So a lot of people will be like, I'm not signing up for that. I'm not working that. So they shouldn't be able to fill those jobs as readily as they would just because those protections aren't there. Because, I mean, just because I'm specialized in a field, $20, $30, whatever an hour, if you can find it in another field and it doesn't take a lot, you'd rather just do that than do the field that you're normally in.
Now, but check it out. Now, I'm finna hit you with some hypocrisy, Venkat. Now, check this out.
Okay.
DeSantis just signed that bill into law. You can't go for water breaks.
Yeah.
Ain't no sensible United States citizen going for that. But who will? You know the answer. You know the answer just like I know it. The answer is an undocumented person in the United States. Now, according to I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. We found it in honesty here. So
yes,
if you saying I can't even go get a drink of water based on whatever industry it is, the capitalists within the construction industry know who to hire, and it ain't gonna be me or you.
So
on the same token, you want to tell me that it's a migrant issue in the United States? How? You touting the very same issue to the people that you want to hire. Let's just keep it real.
So
I'll be talking about that when it comes to the truth about the migrant issue. I'll be talking about all that.
So essentially, MD, wouldn't that be, and with what you're saying here, which makes sense, by the way, wouldn't that then lead to more migrant issues sponsored by the guy that's against migrants coming in? Because
Bingo.
I mean, what you're saying is not far-fetched in any sense of the imagination, and it really would be, because the people that would be intimidated and follow along blindly would be those that are stepping on tippy toes as they come into the country illegal. They're just going to go with anything you say. But a regular born citizen here that understands their rights, they'll just say, oh, hell no, I'm not doing this, and they'll just bounce.
Bingo. See, I'm gonna go ahead and give my my main premise away that I'm gonna do on the show. I'm gonna give it away right here on TFP.
Uh-oh.
The MAGA maniacs don't have an issue with the migrants per se. They have an issue with the migrants garnering citizenship. That's the issue. Don't let these MAGA maniacs tell you that they got a problem with Venezuelans coming here. They don't. They got a problem with them becoming United States citizens. That's the issue. They want to keep getting free money out of their labor. That's what they want. That's exactly what they want. What Biden is doing is trying to speed the process of asylum up for these people. It ain't the fact that the numbers are increasing. That ain't got nothing to do with it. It's the fact that the process is being sped up by Biden when it comes to them garnering asylum status, which would make them effectively, in the long run, United States citizens. That's the issue. This nationalism go deep, folks.
Which he then gets the vote.
Exactly. Well, that's where it affects us, because again, we're looking at a whole new demographic of people. I've been saying this for years. It's not the fact that I'm tripping on migrants coming here. I'm not. I'm tripping on the fact that essentially they're getting the same accommodations as all other migrants had in the past, and they're garnering a certain duty to a certain political party because of it. Black folks were never afforded that right. So in essence, it's basically them. Basically, it's them. If you're looking at it like a Mortal Kombat tower, moving up on the tower, and we still at the bottom. That's not their fault per se. I'm saying we need to become more politically savvy in order for that not to happen. That's not to say that they don't belong in the industry, because they do if they become United States citizens. But just peep the game. This stuff ain't affecting white people at all. It's a numbers game to them. That's all they care about.
According to these MAGA people, it damn sure feels like it.
What,
I mean,
what,
they're regurgitating
these-
talking
what-
points, really, is what they are.
Right. Where these? Okay, we're talking specifically about the Venezuelans. Where are the Venezuelans going? They're not going into white neighborhoods. Hell, I just told you a couple of weeks ago that Topeka, Kansas, want them to come there. They say, hey, look, we need the Venezuelans to come here because don't nobody want to live in Bumble, Topeka, Kansas. Send them here. As a matter of fact, we'll give them money to live here. Chicago doing the same thing. New York doing the same thing, but it's an issue. How? Because of the neighborhoods that is being affected, which is our neighborhood. We didn't ask for the migrants to come there. Brandon Johnson didn't ask for the migrants to come there. Mayor Adams of New York didn't ask for the migrants to come there. Abbott sending them there. DeSantis sending them there. As political theater. They using them like pawns on a chessboard.
So, do we feel like DeSantis is just either not thinking about it, he didn't anticipate? Because for every action, there's a reaction. And for like what you're saying, if you make a bill like this and you have people coming in, the actual United States citizens, they're not going to stick around for that. So now you're just literally leaning on migrants to come in, and those positions are going to get filled by a lot of migrants. Do we think DeSantis is dumb, or that this is just a part of the plan that he wants? He wants to say one thing, but his actions is doing another. What is the sense behind this?
His sense is he wants to keep the corporate entities within his state happy. So you gonna keep hitting me. So yeah, he wants to keep the corporate entities in the state happy. They don't give a damn about the migrant issue. They give a damn about making money, is what they care about. They're like, hey, we don't give a damn where they come from. As long as we can pay them pennies on the dollar, like give them to me. So hell, DeSantis said, I'll do you one better. I'll stop them from getting a drink of water. They can die right there on the day. They ain't got no insurance. They can die right there on the construction site if you want them to. And the construction mogul said, cool. But just stop them from not garnering United States citizenship where they can benefit off labor rights in this country. We don't want that. So let's create a narrative of the migrants is taking over. No, they're not taking over.
That's
I
crazy.
just leave it at that.
Yeah. All right.
The Magamaniac don't go that deep though. You only gonna get this from me.
So you're gonna be on Thursday at what, 8:30?
Yeah, 8:30 Thursday night. The truth about the migrant crisis.
All right, cool. So we're gonna be looking out for that on MD's channel, YouTube channel, Thursday, 8:30.
His channel about the migrant crisis.
Yeah, this coming up Thursday at 8:30.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I got some things I wanted to say about that, so I'll be tuning in.
No doubt.
All right, so I'd like to thank everybody for coming on. I'd like to thank Solar, of course, Ricardo, MD, the world's most dangerous political panel. We'll be back next week, and check out MD again, Thoughtbox, live Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Central Time. For everyone here at Straight Talk Society, peace to Trevor, peace to everyone else in the chat. Have a great evening, and we'll see you on the next one.
She just said a terrible thing. You know what she said? Shout it out, because I don't want to. Okay, you're not allowed to say, and I never expect to hear that from you again. She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's. That's terrible. Terrible.